Chapter 1354. Boom! Yi Chen's sword collided with the trio's divine abilities. How powerful was the combined attack of 3 late-stage soul formation cultivators? Each of their attacks was comparable to a nuclear weapon, forcefully wiping out a country. Rumble! A black hole was pierced through the void. A terrifying energy storm swept out in all directions violently. Wherever it passed, the earth was destroyed and the void collapsed. Even the people on the ground were screaming as they desperately resisted such power. Uft, uft, uft. At that moment, Hall Masterley and the other 2 vomited blood. Their bodies flew backward uncontrollably, and their faces became extremely dispirited. Yi Chen was also pushed back dozens of meters. He felt the vital energy and blood in his body churning as if it was about to burst his blood vessels. Guys, did you see that? Hall Masterley laughed maniacally. This brat is only a mid-stage soul formation cultivator after all. As long as the 3 of us aren't split up, we can exhaust him to death. The true void everlasting sect master, Zhou Dongxian, and the other 2 revealed looks of joy. However, in the next moment, another earth-shattering shriek resounded in the sky. Everyone looked over, and the scene that entered their eyes caused fear to appear on their faces. The white-robed Yi Chen and the black-robed Yi Chen had joined forces to kill a late-stage soul formation cultivator. The remaining late-stage soul formation cultivator's face was filled with shock, and he had suffered many injuries. Another person died. The smiles on the faces of Hall Masterley and the others froze. They had a total of 8 late-stage soul formation cultivators. Now, 4 of them had died, and there were less than 4 left. Meanwhile, Yi Chen had the help of 2 clones. Sooner or later, the 2 clones would kill the other late-stage soul formation cultivator. By then, the 3 Yi Chen would join forces to fight the 3 of them. How could they fight? In an instant, the true void everlasting sect master, Zhou Dongxian, and the others could not help but break out in cold sweat. Fear and trembling kept growing in their hearts like seaweed. Fellow Yi, I'll back out of this matter. I'll back out. At that moment, the Jade Feather Mountain Patriarch, who was besieged by the black and white Yi Chen, spat blood repeatedly as he roared crazily. At this moment, his complexion was extremely dispirited. His left shoulder had forcefully caved in, revealing the ghastly white bones that had been dyed red with fresh blood. Hearing those words, Hall Masterley's expression involuntarily changed. Then he couldn't help glaring at the former. Fellow Baiyu. Fellow Yi, I'm willing to withdraw. I won't interfere in this matter any more. The Patriarch of Jade Feather Mountain did not seem to hear his roar. He looked at Yi Chen in fear. As long as you're willing to let me go, I promise that I won't be your enemy anymore. I can swear. He was almost roaring as he said those words. There was no one who did not fear death, especially at his level. The reason why he helped the Immortal Palace deal with Yi Chen before was because he felt that Yi Chen could not possibly be a match for the Immortal Palace. However, now 4 of them died. No matter how much confidence he had in Immortal Palace, he couldn't hold on any more. At the same time, the black and white Yi Chen stopped moving. At that moment, everyone looked at Yi Chen, including the Patriarch of Jade Feather Mountain and the sect master of the Void Everlasting Sect, Zhou Dongxian. Meeting the Jade Feather Mountain's Patriarch's gaze, Yi Chen said calmly, "If you retreat now, I won't kill you." "All right, thank you." Hearing that, the Patriarch of Jade Feather Mountain felt as if he had been pardoned. After a moment of ecstasy, he immediately activated his true origin energy without hesitation and turned into a long rainbow that fled into the sky. Hall Masterley's eyes were wide open. "****, come back!" However, the former did not even turn around, as if he did not hear him. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the horizon. Hall Masterley's expression was ferocious, and his killing intent was heavenly. Jade Feather Mountain. After this, my immortal palace will definitely be destroyed. Before he could finish speaking, two voices sounded in his ears. Fellow Yi, I won't care about this anymore. Please let me go. I won't care either. The sect master of the Void Everlasting Sect, Zhou Dongxian, and the other late-stage soul formation cultivators spoke in unison as they looked at Yi Qin. Blurg! Hall Master lay spat a mouthful of blood on the spot. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at the two of them. Why you guys? Yi Chen's expression eased as he said, Sure. Hall Master Lei, don't say any more. Zhou Dongxuan's expression was extremely gloomy. I don't want the conditions that your immortal palace agreed to this time. Good luck to your immortal palace. With that, he immediately leaped and left. Be asterisk starred. You're simply a be asterisk starred. Hall Master Lei's face was ashen. You be asterisk starreds, just you wait. In the future, my immortal palace will definitely destroy you. So be it. We're only pursuing the great Tao of immortality. Our disciples and inheritances are ultimately worldly possessions. The last late-stage soul formation, Cultivator, sneered. Moreover, it's still unknown whether your immortal palace will survive this time. After he finished speaking, he also left. The world suddenly became deathly silent. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. They didn't expect that such a shocking reversal would occur. However, after thinking about it carefully, it made sense. The 8 late-stage soul formation cultivators had been killed by Yi Qin. The remaining 4 would definitely not be united anymore. Yi Qin scanned the entire place coldly. His gaze was focused on the remaining dozen or so mid-stage soul formation cultivators. Anyone else who wants to leave? I'll give you a chance. It's not too late to scram now. An old man wearing a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk stood out. Fellow Yi, I, Long Shuzi, am willing to leave. The Crimson Firmament sect doesn't care anymore. The Blue Thunder sect is willing to leave. And the Wind God sect. In just a few breaths of time, nearly 12 major sects in the Purple Firmament world expressed their willingness to leave. What a joke! Even the 3 late-stage soul formation cultivators had run away. Were they a group of mid-stage soul formation cultivators going to stay and wait for death? As for the punishment from the immortal palace, no one thought about it. No matter how severe the punishment was, it could not compare to death. Moreover, the late-stage soul formation cultivator who left last was right. It was unknown whether the immortal palace could survive Yi Chen's confrontation with the immortal palace today. Yi Chen did not stop them and allowed them to leave. His goal was to save Su Yuhan, not to kill. These people chose to leave wisely, saving him a lot of effort. In the end, only Hall Master Lei, who was a late-stage soul formation cultivator, and 3 mid-stage soul formation cultivators from the Immortal Palace were left on Tongtian Mountain. The situation had changed dramatically. Hall, Master Lei, and the 3 mid-stage soul formation cultivators from the Immortal Palace subconsciously gathered together. Their bodies could not help but tremble, and their expressions were extremely ugly, as if they were terrified. Someone wanted to escape, but he was stopped by the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang. The Patriarch of Hell chuckled and said, "Where do you think you're going?" Yi Chen walked toward the 4 of them step by step. In the end, his gaze landed on Hall Master Lei's nervous face, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his lips. "I'm afraid you didn't expect this to happen, did you?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1355. Plop. A mid-stage soul formation cultivator beside Hall Master Lei knelt before Yi Chen on the spot with an extremely terrified expression. "Fellow Yi, spare me, spare me. We're under the orders of the Immortal Palace. We didn't mean to become enemies with you." As soon as he said that, the other 2 mid-stage soul formation cultivators knelt down one after another. They kowtowed like they were pounding garlic, their bodies trembling. "Traitors, you 2 traitors." Seeing this, Hall Master Lei almost vomited blood. "Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Immortal Palace?" Yi Chen stared at him coldly. "I'll give you a chance now. Kneel down and submit to me. Bring me to Suyuhan, and I'll spare your life. Ye just give up." Hall Master Lei sneered when he heard that. "I admit that the immortal palace has underestimated you. However, if I want to leave, how will you stop me?" As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed. He raised his hand and tore open a crack. His figure dashed towards the crack at lightning speed. "Run." At the same time, the 3 mid-stage soul formation cultivators kneeling on the ground spread out at the same time, wanting to take advantage of this opportunity to escape. Escape? Yi Chen's gaze turned cold. Then he crossed his arms as if he was grabbing the stars and the moon. Boom! Following the loud bang, Hall Master Lei was shocked to discover that the space he had torn open had closed. The other 3 soul formation cultivators also discovered that the space they were in had been forcefully sealed. Hall Master Lei roared crazily, "Yi, you can't kill me!" Universe collapsing lightning strike. Yi Chen's punch shocked the world, triggering tens of thousands of lightning bolts. Lightning appeared in the sky like the wrath of heaven descending, spanning thousands of meters. Bang! The 3 mid-stage soul formation cultivators were the first to be drowned by the terrifying lightning. Hall Master Lei's pupils constricted violently as he frantically activated his protective spirit treasure. However, all of this was useless. His entire body was enveloped by the glow of lightning, and countless cracks surged out from his body, starting from his chest. It was like glass had shattered in half, and in the end it exploded into countless fragments that vanished into thin air. Dead silence. The world suddenly fell into dead silence. Everyone stared blankly at the scene. Hall Master Lei had set up a peerless killing array on Sky-Piercing Mountain and had the help of many soul formation stage cultivators. However, the final outcome was death. This person is too terrifying. Fortunately, we didn't attack him due to our low strength. Otherwise, the consequences could be imagined. Perhaps he really does have the ability to destroy the immortal palace. In an instant, the silence was broken by waves of gasps and uproars. Countless gazes blankly stared the figure that was like a god descending to the mortal world. Yi Wushuang walked over slowly and looked at Yi Chen's rather pale face worriedly. "Brother, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Yi Chen took a deep breath in, and his gaze suddenly landed on the depths of Tongtian Mountain. "Let's go. It's time to meet the master of the immortal palace." At the peak of the sky-piercing mountain, the vast heavenly palace was still as majestic as ever. Clouds and mist lingered around it, containing a supreme majesty. Countless figures with powerful auras shuttled back and forth, as though they were setting up the wedding venue. Whooshing sounds rose and fell. In the depths of the heavenly palace, 2 figures sat cross-legged. The space around them became incomparably distorted as they breathed. Qi Daolin, who was dressed in white, looked straight at the young man with evil aura. His eyes drooped as he muttered, defeated, "That trash, Hall Master Lei, actually failed to kill this brat. I have to say, this brat is truly powerful." Qi Huang, who was opposite him, also had a somewhat solemn expression. 8 late-stage soul formation stage cultivators joined forces and a peerless killing array, yet 4 of them were actually killed by him. Why is this brat's clone technique so powerful? Qi Daolin's heart was slightly fearful as he said in a deep voice, "The 2 clones actually maintain the same battle prowess as the main body. If he was a perfected soul formation stage cultivator, even if you and I joined forces, we probably wouldn't be able to. I've never heard of such a divinity before." Qi Huang's eyes narrowed slightly as a dark glint flashed across his deep eyes. "Looks like this brat has an extraordinary secret." This brat came from the celestial burial planet. The natives of the celestial burial planet are merely a bunch of martial arts trash. Back then, when we invaded the celestial burial planet, we were all killed or injured. How did he obtain the cultivation inheritance? His eyes flickered, and he couldn't help but frown. Could it be that this brat was really a trap, that the celestial burial planet's heavenly Tao had foreseen the impending catastrophe? What should we do now? Qi Daolin interrupted his words. Hearing this, Qi Huang immediately laughed wickedly. His smile revealed a hint of coldness. Act according to the plan. It's time to prepare a big gift for him. Outside the palace of Tao Immortals, the bronze gate towered like a towering mountain. It was incomparably majestic and dazzling. At this moment, outside the bronze gate, there were countless cultivators of the palace of Tao Immortals. These people all held magic weapons in their hands as they looked at the sky with trepidation. Among them, there were cultivators of the Golden Core stage and cultivators of the early Soul Formation stage. Dong dong dong, following a series of deep sounds that sounded like huge copper colliding with a large bell, a group of people with monstrous killing intent appeared in everyone's eyes. Following their appearance, the temperature in that area suddenly dropped, as if it had turned into an icy hell. This group of people was none other than Yi Chen and the rest. Kill! Before Yi Chen and the rest could speak, the many Immortal Palace cultivators guarding outside the bronze gate of the Immortal Palace charged over. Their eyes were filled with madness. You're courting death. The Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang shot out and took the initiative to meet the group of people. The Patriarch of Hell shouted, "Fellow, leave these lackeys to us. Go and find him quickly." "All right." Yi Chen nodded lightly. Then his body flashed, and he shot into the bronze gate immediately. During that time, some cultivators who were not afraid of death were crushed into a bloody mist by his pressure before they could even get close to him. At the same time, his divine consciousness surged out in an attempt to envelop the area. However, what surprised him was that the arrangements inside the Immortal Palace could actually block divine consciousness, preventing his divine consciousness from enveloping too much. Old Dog Qi of the Immortal Palace, Yi Chen has already killed his way to your doorstep. Are you still going to hide? Yi Chen looked into the depths of the Immortal Palace. His voice, wrapped in powerful true origin energy, became incomparably mighty. It rumbled like thunder in the world. At the same time, in the boundless purple bamboo forest, a beautiful figure stood up in shock. Her beautiful eyes stared blankly out of the bamboo forest as she cried tears of joy. "It's Xiaochen! It's really Xiaochen! Xiaochen, I'm here!" Su Yuhan shouted with all her might. However, no matter how hoarse she shouted, her voice could not pass through the bamboo forest in front of her. In the Immortal Palace, almost as soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, an old chuckle resounded in the air. "Haha, I have to say, I've really underestimated you. You were actually able to kill your way here unscathed." End of this chapter. Chapter 1356. Haha, I have to say, I've really underestimated you. You're actually able to kill your way here unscathed. As the voice fell, the void shattered. Two rays of dark light tore through the air from the depths of the heavenly palace and stopped 3,000 meters away from Yi Chen. The two figures were an old man and a young man. The old man on the left was dressed in white. His hair was black and white, and his face was as haggard as tree bark. His eyes were like a dark abyss that could captivate one's soul. On the other hand, the young man on the right was dressed in black. His face was extraordinarily handsome, but if one took a closer look, they would notice an evil smile at the corner of his lips from time to time. Who else could they be but Qi Daolin and Qi Huang? Yi Chen's gaze stopped on the two of them. Extreme killing intent surged in the depths of his eyes. However, his gaze paused when he glanced at Qi Huang. Perfected God transformation stage. His eyes flashed imperceptibly. Qi Huang had severed his arms back then and used a blood sacrifice to escape from him. Logically speaking, it would be very difficult for him to recover from his injuries in a short period of time. However, the former's complexion was quite good at the moment. What surprised him the most was that the former's cultivation base had also risen from intermediate stage God transformation stage to perfected God transformation stage. Thinking to this point, he seemed to have thought of something and immediately looked at Chi Daolin with a cold smile. As the saying goes, even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its cubs. I didn't expect you to sit back and watch your son be possessed. Chi Daolin's eyes narrowed slightly as pain flashed through them. Then he said, "Ever since we stepped onto the path of cultivation, we were destined to sever our ties with the mortal world and sever our emotions. It's just a son. We can have another one in the future." In the future? Yi Chen scoffed when he heard that. He no longer hid the killing intent in his body. "You have no future because all of you will die in my hands today." At this point, he could not help but take a deep breath in and said slowly, "Hand over my wife and brother, and I can give the two of you a dignified death." Shameless boasting, Chi Daolin sneered and was about to speak. However, he was interrupted by Chi Huang, who looked at Yi Chen and snickered. "Junior, you're a lowly native from the celestial burial planet." Yi Chen's eyes turned slightly cold. "Who the hell are you?" Chi Huang wasn't angry at all. Instead, he chuckled and introduced himself. "You can call me Teacher Mu. Your woman, your brother, and that little girl were all captured by me." The killing intent on Yi Chen's body exploded as soon as he said that. He stared at the former coldly. "I swear that I'll extract your soul and burn your bones to ashes." "You're losing your cool already?" Master Mu sneered. "Don't you want to know why I kidnapped your woman, your brother, and that little girl named Qian?" Yi Chen suppressed his killing intent and glared at him coldly. Seeing this, Master Mu was even more satisfied. He chuckled and said, "I'm from the Ziwei Star Zone's Guangming sect, and I'm known as the Guangming sect's ancestor. Back then, we joined forces with the other sects in the Ziwei Star Zone to travel through the starry sky and descend upon your celestial burial planet." Yi Chen's pupils constricted when he heard that. He said coldly, "So you're Earth's enemy from the outer realm. That's right." Master Mu snickered. "Back then we, the 8 peerless sects of Ziwei Star region, descended on Earth and tried to turn Earth into purgatory. Who would have thought that when we invaded Earth's world wall, we would discover that Earth had already given birth to the heavenly Tao? In order to stop us from descending, the heavenly Tao of Earth did not hesitate to violate its own great Tao and transform into a human to attack us." At this point, a hint of fear flashed through his eyes. "At that time, she killed all the peak powerhouses of the 8 sections. I only managed to survive by splitting my primordial spirit into the void at the critical moment." Yi Chen's eyes flickered when he heard that. It was similar to what he knew. The heavenly Tao of Earth had killed the powerhouses of the foreign enemies and died. Even so, the core forces of the 8 sects still descended on Earth. Following that, the saints of Earth joined forces to counterattack, including the saints of the East and the gods of the West. In the end, both sides perished together. Unfortunately, the moment the heavenly Tao of Earth attacked, it was destined to perish. However, it was smart to seal the world wall again before it died, and even left itself a backup plan. Master Mu suddenly looked at him. "I believe you've guessed it. That child named Qian is a way out for the heavenly Tao. It's not an exaggeration to describe that girl as the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. If I'm not wrong, the heavenly Tao is the incarnation of the heavenly Tao." Yi Chen said with a cold smile, "After you luckily escaped from the heavenly Tao, you fell into this firmament purple world and were taken in by the immortal palace, right?" After saying that, he glanced at Chi Daolin. "That's right." Master Mu smiled faintly. "With the help of the immortal palace, I gradually recovered my cultivation base to full stage soul formation." At this point, his voice suddenly became extremely sharp, "but I am unwilling. I used to be a cultivator of the void training stage. How can I stop at the spirit forming stage? How can I be trapped in this small azure purple world?" Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. "So you captured my wife?" "You guessed right." Master Mu snorted coldly. "I'm extremely good at deduction. In order to deduce the heavenly secrets of the incarnation of the heavenly Tao, I accidentally discovered that your wife was with the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. His eyes were filled with greed. What excited me the most was that your wife actually has a pure Yin body. She's the best cauldron in the world. If I were to pluck her, I would definitely be able to step into void refinement. And your brother, he has the innate netherworld battle body. He's the most suitable existence to be refined into a puppet. A monstrous ferocity appeared between his brows. At that time, I'll control the incarnation of the heavenly Tao and refine it into a world spirit fetus. It'll be enough to sweep through the Ziwei galaxy. As soon as he said that, Yi Qin could not help but be shocked. He had to admit that the former's idea was crazy. He actually wanted to refine the Earth's heavenly Tao into a world spirit fetus. You're really a lunatic. He could not help but take a deep breath. What a pity. Master Mu seemed to say regretfully, "It's a pity that your wife was already pregnant when she was captured by the immortal palace." What angered me was that the fetus in her womb suppressed the pure Yin energy in your wife's body, preventing me from plucking it. Anger surged in his eyes. I could only wait for it to be born. Unfortunately, this little rascal is still not born. It's been 2 years. Man proposes, but God disposes. Yi Chen was relieved. He could not help but sneer. Thank you for telling me so much information. In return, I'll grant you the death penalty. Is that so? A strange expression suddenly appeared on Master Mu's face. Do you really think I'm so kind as to tell you so much? End of this chapter. Chapter 1357. After saying that, he waved his sleeve lightly. The space around him suddenly distorted. As the black fog surged, it was as if a blurry figure descended from the sky from the distorted space. The sudden scene caused Yi Chen's eyes to focus. Then he stared fixedly at the turbulent, distorted space. At the next moment, a foot slowly stepped out, revealing a frail and elderly figure. It was an old man with white hair. He wore a tattered Taoist robe, and his clothes were tattered. His body was wrapped in dense black chains, and his turbid eyes seemed to want to pierce through the sky. With the appearance of this person, it was as if a peerless divine sword had been unsheathed. The pressure was vast and mighty, shaking the surroundings and suppressing the void. Another perfected God transformation stage. At that moment, Yi Chen felt a hint of pressure from him, and his expression turned solemn. Including Qi Daolin and the other two, the old man who suddenly appeared was about to face 3 perfected God transformation stage cultivators. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh at the same time, several streaks of green light shot over from afar, revealing the figures of the Patriarch of Hell, Yi Wushuang, Xiaohe, Yi Hai, Wulan, and the rest. Perfected God transformation stage, sensing the pressure from Master Mu and the other two. Even the Patriarch of Hell's expression could not help but turn grim. Old Senior. At that moment, Yi Hai and the rest behind Yi Qin looked at the white-haired old man excitedly. There was joy in their eyes that they had not seen for a long time. Old man, it's me. Yi Hai subconsciously walked toward the white-haired old man quickly. Old man, how are you, Han, and the rest? Dad, don't go over. Yi Qin pulled him back at the right time and said, Is he the crazy priest on the ghost ship? Yes, that's him. Yi Hai nodded immediately and looked at the white-haired old man again. He shouted, Old Senior, I'm Yi Hai. Don't you recognize me? However, no matter how Yi Hai shouted, the white-haired old man seemed to not hear him. There was only endless killing intent in his eyes. So he's Old Xian. Yi Qin took a good look at the white-haired old man as his eyes flickered. But why does he have such a terrifying cultivation base? There were too many things he didn't understand. Elder Xian had protected Su Yuhan and the others on the ghost ship to the ancient barren world. If he was a perfected soul formation cultivator, how could he have been captured? I guess you must be full of temptation right now, right? At that moment, Qi Daolin, who had been silent all this while, looked at Yi Qin and suddenly sneered. This is the escort of the ghost ship that you've been trying to find. He's also the one who escorted your wife to the ancient, desolate realm safely, since you're not far from death. Mu Shi chuckled coldly. I can also tell you that the old man you speak of is one of the powerhouses of the Ziwei galaxy who invaded Earth back then. His real name is Xianzong. At this point, he seemed to say mockingly, "It's just that this old thing's primordial spirit was wiped out by the Earth's heavenly way back then. He became crazy and delirious, forgetting everything. He even went to protect the heavenly way's incarnation. We paid a great price to capture him and spent countless resources to finally refine him into the first puppet boy." Qi Daolin looked at Yi Chen wryly. He seemed to be mocking. "Are you guys satisfied with this gift?" Yi Chen slowly exhaled a mouthful of foul air. Even he didn't expect Elder Xian to be one of the top experts who invaded Earth back then. Old Man, Wulan, and Yi Hai were heartbroken. To them, Elder Xian was their savior. Without him, they would have died in the hands of Shang Santian. Without him, it would have been even more impossible for them to pass through the black mist and reach the ancient barren world safely. How could the two of them not feel sad and sorrowful after hearing Elder Xian's fate? Yi Chen nodded lightly. "You guys are so cruel." Qi Daolin's eyes turned slightly cold. "Today, 3 of us at the great perfection of soul formation are here. Junior Yi, even if you're overflowing with talent and terrifying battle prowess, so what? Are you strong enough to fight against 3 perfected soul formation cultivators? Fellow Yi, this is troublesome." The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed slightly. He secretly sent a voice transmission to Yi Chen through divine consciousness. "If 3 perfected soul formation cultivators join forces, you definitely won't be able to fight them with your strength. They only need to send 2 of them to hold you back. The remaining 1 can kill me and your parents." Yi Chen said nothing. His eyes were extremely determined. So what if there were 3 perfected soul formation cultivators? He had to save Su Yuhan and her son today, no matter what. At that moment, Master Mu smiled faintly. "Junior Yi, you're just a native of the celestial burial planet, yet you're able to cultivate to such a level. It's enough to show that you're extraordinarily talented. With your talent, you're a genius that only appears once in 10,000 years, even in my Ziwei star zone." He looked at Yi Chen as if he was mocking him. "If you're smart, you can serve me as your master and hand over all your secrets. We can spare your life." Yi Chen took a deep breath in and took a step forward. Divine light surged out of his body, and his voice was like thunder. "Fight!" The Patriarch of Hell was moved by his aura. He hesitated for a moment before taking a step forward and laughing out loud. "Forget it. Today, I'll give up my life to fight with you." "Fight!" Yi Wushuang took a step forward with a determined expression. "Fight!" Xiao Hei's eyes were blood red, and he did not hesitate. "Fight, fight, fight!" At the same time, Hall Master Bei Yun, Shi Qianhan, and the other remaining powerhouses of the ancient, desolate realm stepped forward. Only the Patriarch of Green Spirit and the Heavenly Ghost Sex Patriarch hesitated. "What can trash like you do?" Qi Daolin laughed out loud, as if he was disdainful. "Other than the junior surnamed Yi, what difference is there between the rest of you and ants in our eyes?" Right at that moment, a soft voice suddenly sounded in the air. "What if I join you?" This soft voice was neither loud nor soft, but it shook the surroundings. At that moment, a pair of silver lightning wings descended from the sky. It seemed to be a man, and it was accompanied by a monstrous, ferocious might. That figure was too terrifying. A pair of silver lightning pools shook the wind and clouds, and a pair of silver pupils seemed to be the origin of lightning. One could not help but close their eyes as blood flowed from the corner of their eyes. Ing. At that moment, Yi Chen's expression changed. He stared fixedly at the figure that had suddenly descended. Who else could it be but Ing? However, at that moment, the other party's transformation was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that Yi Chen almost could not recognize him. Perfected God transformation stage. Yi Chen could feel the pressure from him. At the same time, Qi Daolin and Master Mu's expressions gradually turned grim. There was deep fear in their eyes as they looked at Ying. Ying was bathed in lightning as he descended forcefully. He first smiled at Yi Chen before lifting his eyes to shoot into the air. He said in a loud voice, "Yi Dongli, when are you going to show yourself?" Chapter 1358. The Immortal Palace was as vast as a mountain, and the Heavenly Palace stood towering. "Yi Dongli, what are you waiting for?" Ying's eyes were like silver lightning. They were so dazzling that they directly pierced through the void. A monstrous, ferocious might appeared on his body, directly scattering the endless clouds. Everyone's eyes suddenly looked into the depths of the void. Yi Dongli was here too? Wasn't he dead? The remaining powerhouses of the ancient desolate realm, such as Hall Master North Yin, seemed to have heard something terrifying. Their eyes were filled with shock. Meanwhile, Qi Daolin and Mu Shi's expressions became more and more gloomy. Yi Chen's green robes fluttered as he looked at the void. Waves of light surged from the depths of his eyes. "Yi Dongli, you're really not dead!" Buzz, as the void trembled violently, a white-clothed figure that looked like a god slowly walked out from the depths of the trembling void. The figure's white clothes fluttered in the wind, and he was peerless. It was Yi Dongli. At this moment, heaven and earth seemed to freeze. Countless gazes gathered on Yi Dongli. There was shock, ecstasy, and even more disbelief. Emperor Dongli, Hall Master North Yin, and the others cried tears of joy. They could not believe that Yi Dongli, who they had regarded as a legend since they were young, had really revived and descended to the Immortal Palace. At that moment, Qi Daolin and Mu Shi's expressions were extremely gloomy. Even though the two of them were mentally prepared, their faces still turned ashen when they faced such a scene. Great perfection, God, transformation stage. It was also at that moment that Yi Chen could not help but narrow his eyes. He could sense an aura that was identical to Ying's from Yi Dongli. Both of them were at great perfection, God transformation stage. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Dongli walked over slowly and smiled at Hall Master North Yin and the rest. Eventually, he landed less than 30 meters away from Yi Chen. His calm gaze met Yi Chen's quietly. In an instant, be it Yi Chen or Yi Dongli, they could feel the bloodline connection in each other's bodies. Even Yi Hai was no exception. "You're very good." Yi Dongli looked at Yi Chen quietly for a few seconds. A smile that could intoxicate all living beings appeared on his calm face. There was admiration in his eyes, like a senior praising and appreciating a junior, but he did not put on any airs. After that, he slowly fixed his gaze on Qi Daolin and Mu Shi and said indifferently, "I'm afraid you guys didn't expect this day to come, right?" Under everyone's gaze, Qi Daolin smiled coldly. A cold light appeared in his eyes. "Yi Dongli, I should have turned you into ashes back then. 10,000 years ago, Qi Daolin and Mu Shi, Qi Dao Palace, a disciple of the immortal As and Palace, as Yi Palace Master. Back then, when Yi Dongli attacked the Celestial Palace from the ancient barren world, it was Qi Daolin who suppressed him. However, he was too arrogant and didn't destroy Yi Dongli's body. Mu Yi 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 as Yi. Emperor, Mu Yi Yi Mu. Yi 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 Yi. If saint, Yi 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 Palace Yi Yi. For Yi 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 Yi. If you hadn't schemed against me back then. Yi Dongli shook his head and looked at Mu Shi. Ancestor Guangming, I don't think you've had it easy either. Yi Dongli. Mu Shi's expression changed slightly as he snorted. You and I are both from the Ziwei sector. Why don't you join forces with me and kill these two? After that, we'll... As soon as he finished speaking, everyone, including Yi Chen, was shocked. Yi Dongli and Mu Shi were from the same world. Yi Chen could not help but glance at Yi Dongli. He narrowed his eyes and the doubts in his heart dissipated. No wonder Yi Dongli was also a cultivator. No, you're different from me. Yi Dongli acted as if he did not notice the change in everyone's expressions. He continued to speak calmly. I arrived at the celestial burial planet earlier than all of you, and arrived at the ancient desolate realm earlier than all of you. Your goal is to plunder and invade, but my goal is to protect everything here. Fool! Mu Sure snorted and mocked. You're the genius of the Yi family in the Ziwei sector, after all. How could you lower yourself to fall for a lowly woman from the lower realm? As he narrated, Yi Chen and the rest slowly understood the grudge from 10,000 years ago. 10,000 years ago! Earth did not suffer from the great calamity of the outer realm. To be precise, Earth was just an insignificant drop in the ocean in the vast galaxy. At that time, Yi Dongli was the genius of the Yi family in the Ziwei sector. He was forced by his family to marry someone else and had no choice but to leave. In order to avoid being captured by the Yi family, he had no choice but to flee to the Ziwei sector. By chance, he landed on Earth and actually fell in love with a woman from the ancient human race. However, the woman did not have the talent to cultivate. 100 years passed in a flash. Yi Dongli, who was injured while crossing worlds, could not stop the woman from dying of old age. In the end, Yi Dongli could only send the woman's soul into reincarnation and pay the price to use his divinity to deduce the place where the woman was about to be born. The place he deduced was the ancient, desolate realm. Yi Dongli stepped into the ancient, desolate realm and tried to wait for the birth of his beloved. Unexpectedly, something happened, causing the woman's soul to be taken away by the immortal palace before she could reincarnate. After that, it led to the matter of Yi Dongli killing his way into the immortal palace. Only Yi Dongli and a few other powerhouses of the older generation in the ancient, desolate realm knew about this secret. Therefore, as juniors, the North Sea Hall Master and the rest did not know about it. After understanding what happened, the hostility in Yi Chen's eyes when he looked at Yi Dongli dissipated a lot. In that case, the Yi family must be the descendant of Yi Dongli and that woman back then. Seeing that Yi Dongli refused to budge, Master Mu's expression turned extremely ugly. He could not help but look at him again. Both Yi Dongli and Yi Chen have a deep grudge against us, but you don't. What's your purpose? That's right. Qi Daolin also looked at him and said, You're a zombie, and you're destined to be tolerated by the secular world. If you're willing to bury the hatchet with us, you can share this world with us from today onwards. In an instant, everyone could not help but look at him. Yi Chen was no exception. Under everyone's gaze, Ing suddenly laughed. His laugh was wild and domineering. I'm afraid you guys haven't figured out my identity. I'm the Emperor of China on Earth. You're a foreign enemy who once invaded my territory. You actually want me to cooperate with you. 1,000 years ago, I made this vow in front of the people of the world, in front of the ancient sages, in front of the gods, and in front of the billions of descendants. At this point, Ing laughed out loud. As long as I am here, I will defend the land and open up the borders. I will sweep through the 4 barbarians and establish the foundation of my great Qin. When I die, I will transform into a dragon soul and protect Huaxia for all eternity. This oath is borne by the sun and moon, witnessed by heaven and earth, and heard by all immortals, devils, ghosts, and gods. I am the first emperor, and future generations will be numbered. 2 generations, 3 generations, and 10,000 generations will be passed down without end. End of chapter. Chapter 1360. His arrogant words resounded in the world. They were sonorous and powerful, shaking the surroundings. When they landed in everyone's minds, their hearts were shaken. Even Qi Daolin and Master Mu were stunned by this grand prophecy, and for a moment they were in a daze. In an instant, the world fell into a deathly silence. Yi Chen looked at Ing in a daze. His thunderous words echoed in his mind crazily. It seemed to have an extreme magical power that moved one's heart. This was the first time he had looked Ing in the eye. His state of mind was completely different from before. He was touched, delighted, and hot-blooded. A few seconds later, he took a deep breath in and could not help but laugh out loud. Great! What a great Ing! What a great emperor! I was wrong about you previously. At this point, he suddenly bowed deeply to Ying. Not for anything else, just for the countless living beings on Earth, just for the hundreds of millions of Chinese men, just to pay their respects to this ancient emperor who had once unified China. After him, Yi Wushuang, Xiaohe Yi Hai Wulan, and the rest of the people from Earth all bowed deeply to Ying. Even the Patriarch of Hell was affected by his heroic oath. He could not help but let out a heavy sigh. I can't compare to such an ancient emperor. Yi Dongli also clasped his fists at Ying. At the same time, Yi Chen clenched his fists tightly. A sharp aura shot into the sky from his body. Both of you, let's fight. We'll sink this immortal palace today. The moment Yi Chen was done speaking, countless sharp auras shot into the clouds as well. They were like sharp swords that had been unsheathed. The fluctuation actually caused countless cracks to appear in the air. Subsequently, Yi Chen, Yi Dongli, and Ying shot into the sky. Yi Chen looked down at Qi Daolin and the other two. Cut the crap. You guys are courting death. Qi Daolin's eyes were filled with coldness and killing intent. Do you really think the two of us are afraid of you? All right, I'll deal with you guys here today. Let's see who else dares to make the immortal palace their enemy. Patriarch Guangming, let me, Yi Dongli, experience the abilities of the Patriarch of Ziwei Star, Zone's Guangming sect. Yi Dongli's white robes fluttered in the wind, shattering the void. In the blink of an eye, he dashed toward Musher. With a calm look in his eyes, he slammed a massive palm down toward the ladder. Junior, do you think you're worthy of attacking me? Master Mu flew into a rage, and his face darkened. Even the patriarch of the Yi family in the Ziwei galaxy has to show me some respect. His voice fell. A giant palm was formed in the empty space above his head. The giant palm was purplish gold in color and was 30 to 40 feet in size. Monstrous energy flickered on its surface as it shattered everything. Boom! Two powerful auras collided in the empty space, immediately causing the entire empty space to be torn into two. Frightening energy swept out like floodwaters, directly scattering the clouds in the sky. The terrifying might caused everyone's expression to change. It was too powerful. Under this kind of pressure, even a late-stage divine transformation cultivator's body would crumble on the spot. Blood trickled down the corner of Yi Dongli's lips, and he was knocked back heavily. Musher wasn't in a good state either, and he was sent flying several hundred zhang away. They were on par. Everyone's heart shook when they saw this scene. Yi Dongli was actually on par with Master Mu. They were not the only ones. Even Qi Daolin, who was below, was shocked. Immediately after, he took a step forward, as if he wanted to help Master Mu. Old dog, your opponent is me. Yi Chen let out a long roar. He stepped into the air and charged at Qi Daolin. His eyes were burning with golden flames, like divine flames that could burn all living things. Shameless boasting. Qi Daolin's eyes were filled with contempt. You're only at the intermediate stage of soul formation. There's a difference of 2 levels between us, and the density of your true origin energy is worlds apart. What can you do to me? After saying that, he took a step forward and charged at Yi Chen. Dai Yi! Qi Daolin shouted angrily. Bai Kai moved and formed a seal with his hands. In an instant, 9 giant shadows appeared behind him. The aura of the 9 giant shadows was monstrous. They were like gods that had descended to the world. They charged at Yi Chen with terrifying killing intent. Yi Chen's entire body was glowing with golden divine light. He was like an indestructible golden body. He dove forward, and the shadow of his fist swept across heaven and earth. It was as if he was pushing a sun forward in the air. Rumble. The 2 auras were like tornadoes, setting off terrifying waves that caused the air to churn. They turned into 2 huge storms that collided crazily. Leave the last person to me. Seeing that his opponents were robbed one after another, Ying's expression darkened slightly, as if he was unhappy. He could only look at old Xian, who was on the ground. Old Qian's hollow eyes also looked at him. Boom! A bolt of lightning suddenly flashed through the air. Everyone felt that their eyes were extremely dazzling. When the lightning dissipated, Ying and Old Qian had already started fighting. In the endless void, a powerful figure was like a peerless demon god. He was as tall as the sky, and behind him was a pair of silver wings that covered the sky. As the wings flapped, lightning descended. Who else could it be but Ying? On the other hand, his opponent, Old Qian, was still staggering like an old man in his twilight years. However, every step he took contained Dao runes, and he was actually on par with Ying. At this moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the void. In the depths of their eyes, there were only 6 terrifying, godlike figures. Too powerful. That was the only thought left in everyone's minds. Even the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Wushuang were no exception. Stay here and protect them. The Patriarch of Hell suddenly looked at Yi Wushuang beside him and said, I'll go search and see if I can find them. Yi Wushuang nodded solemnly. The Patriarch of Hell no longer hesitated. With a flash, he immediately rushed into the depths of the Immortal Palace. Hall Master North and the others followed him. Everyone split up and search. Inform me immediately if you find anything, the Patriarch of Hell ordered. Both sides were moving. Everyone knew very well that if they took the opportunity to find Su Yuhan first, Yi Chan would not have to fight Qi Daolin anymore. Yi Hai and Wu Lan, who was carrying Meng Meng, looked at Yi Qin, who was fighting Qi Daolin, nervously. Their hearts were in their throats. They were afraid to see Yi Qin injured. Thud! In the void, the first clash between Yi Qin and Qi Daolin caused the clouds to disperse. The void wailed as if the entire world was roaring. Yi Qin's clothes fluttered in the storm. Every attack carried a destructive aura. It was like a falling star that smashed at Qi Daolin. Divine fist created in 30 days, heaven-shaking stomp, heaven-shaking hammer, heaven-burning palm. At that moment, Yi Qin was like a supreme demon god that had descended to the world. There was only endless killing intent in his heart, as if he wanted to kill Qi Daolin completely. End of this chapter. Chapter 1361. Qi Daolin, didn't you say you want to kill me? Yi Qin's divinity was invincible. He launched all sorts of attacks at Qi Daolin in an extremely domineering manner. He did not give Qi Daolin a chance to catch his breath. Be *starred. Qi Daolin's face was livid. Initially, he thought that even though Yi Qin had the combat strength of a mastery stage god transformation stage, he was no match for him no matter what. He would definitely be able to kill Yi Qin within 10 moves. However, the reality was that Yi Qin was clearly only at the intermediate stage god transformation stage, but his true origin energy was extremely dense. He was no weaker than an ordinary perfected god transformation stage cultivator. Coupled with his freakish physical body and the endless 8 divinities, he was unable to withstand them. Triessence void refining technique. At the critical moment, Qi Daolin roared and spat. Chaotic energy spat out from his mouth like a scorching sun, burning everything. At that moment, the chaotic energy grew larger and larger. Eventually, it rolled toward Yi Qin like a gigantic golden pill. The void melted wherever it passed. Heavenly River Drill. Yi Qin's white hair danced wildly as he hugged the air. Golden light surged. Under everyone's gazes, rivers appeared in the sky without anyone noticing. The sound of water surged, and waves swept through heaven and earth. Roar! A dragon's roar sounded, and the rivers turned into several enormous water dragons at a speed visible to the naked eye. They waved their terrifying claws and charged at the scorching golden pill. Boom! At that moment, it was as if an extreme collision had occurred between heaven and earth. The earth shook, the mountains shook, the void collapsed, and heavy rain poured. Blurg! When the storm dissipated, Yi Qin staggered and retreated over 30 meters. He could not help but spit a mouthful of blood at the corner of his mouth, and his face was slightly pale. At the same time, Chi Daolin let out a blood-curdling scream. His body fell from the sky like a tattered sack, directly smashing a palace into dust. Shaoqin, Yi Hai and Wu Lan's expressions changed when they saw that. They cried out subconsciously as if they wanted to charge into the sky, but Yi Wushuang stopped them. The rest of the spectators were only left with shock. It was too terrifying. Both Yi Qin and Chi Daolin were fighting with their lives on the line. Both of them were injured, but Yi Chan was able to fight Chi Daolin to such a state. Chi Daolin, Mu Shi, who was in the midst of exchanging blows with Yi Dongli, narrowed his eyes upon seeing this. Clearly, he didn't expect the two of them to reach such a state. How is this possible? Thinking to this point, Master Mu took a good look at Yi Qin. Extreme disbelief surged in his eyes. You must know that Chi Daolin is a perfected soul formation cultivator. He was not the only one. Even Yi Dongli and Ing were surprised. They did not expect Yi Chen's combat ability to be so terrifying. In the air, Yi Chen stared at the collapsed ground. He wiped the blood from the corner of his lips and snorted coldly. Chi Daolin, I know you're not dead. As his voice fell, an extremely resentful voice immediately came from the ruins on the ground. Junior, you really deserve to die. Boom. Following that, a disheveled figure with disheveled hair soared into the sky as if he was hysterical. Everyone sucked in a cold breath when they saw it. At this moment, Chi Daolin's right arm was forcefully broken. His hair was completely burnt, and his body was caved in to the point that he did not look like a human. It was as if he had turned into a bloody man. Chi Daolin looked at Yi Chan with resentment and was almost roaring. I'm going to kill you. I must kill you. His voice was bone-chilling, making one's hair stand on end. He had not been injured for thousands of years, and it was such a serious injury. What infuriated him the most was that he had been beaten to such a state by a mid-stage soul formation cultivator. Chi Daolin screamed maniacally. A black divine spear suddenly shot out from his body. As soon as the black hair appeared, even Yi Dongli and Ing felt a bone-piercing chill. Yi Dongli's expression changed slightly as he stared at the black hair. Then he seemed to have thought of something and shouted immediately, Yi Qin, this is the Immortal Palace's ultimate treasure, the Netherworld hair. It's said that it descended from outer space. It's very likely to be a broken immortal weapon. Hearing this, Ying's expression changed. Celestial artifact? A broken immortal weapon. That's right, Yi Dongli said in a deep voice. Although this item isn't a real immortal weapon, and its power isn't even a billionth of an immortal weapon, even a void refinement stage almighty would be afraid of it. The reason why he recognized it was because there were many broken immortal weapons that fell from the spatial flow in the spatial rift of Ziwei Star, causing a lot of bloodshed. Damn it. At the same time, Mu Shi cursed to himself. This damn Chi Daolin. He actually hid this move and only used it now. At that moment, endless vital energy and blood surged into the Netherworld spear in Chi Daolin's body, and his face aged at a speed visible to the naked eye. Buzz! After absorbing his essence blood, the seemingly rusty long hair suddenly shook violently, after which a heart-palpitating and ice-cold aura gushed out. Under that aura, heaven and earth seemed to have been frozen. Ha ha ha, go to hell! Chi Daolin laughed maniacally. The Netherworld spear shot out at an indescribable speed, swallowing and spitting a monstrous cold gleam as it charged at Yi Qin. At the same time, Yi Chen's hair stood on end. It was a threat from a broken immortal weapon. Break! At that moment, he let out a long roar and pushed his body to the limit. His entire body was immediately wrapped tightly by 10,000 rays of golden light, as if he was possessed by a god. Boom! Under everyone's gaze, the void was split into two. It was as if a heavenly river had swept across and drowned Yi-Chin. In an instant, a mountain range was razed to the ground. Xiaochen! Big brother! Seeing this scene, countless cries of alarm rang out in the world at that moment. They seemed to be filled with grief and despair. What a pity! Yi Dongli looked lonely. Ying's eyes flickered, but he did not say a word. If the target of the netherworld spear was him, he was not confident that he could withstand that attack. Ha ha ha! Do you really think I can't kill you? Qi Daolin coughed and laughed. Xiaochen! Yi Hai and Wu Lan almost fainted. Right at that moment, a voice that sounded like someone coughing blood suddenly sounded. Unfortunately, your immortal weapon is extremely damaged and your immortal energy has long since dissipated. You still can't kill me. This voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. It was so familiar. Yi Hai and Wu Lan cried tears of joy. It's Xiaochen! Qi Daolin's body stiffened violently, and then he stared fixedly at the thin figure that slowly walked out from the underground ruins. Horror and disbelief immediately appeared on his face. Impossible! This is impossible! That was the Immortal Palace's treasure. It was rumored that it was an immortal weapon that descended from the outer realm. It possessed supreme divine power and might. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Meeting his gaze, Yi-Chin coughed blood and said, You failed to kill me. I'll kill you next. If one took a closer look, they would discover that there was a fist-sized wound on his chest that was bleeding. It was healing at a terrifying speed. Chapter 1362. Xiaochen isn't dead. Yi Hai and Wu Lan's expressions brightened up when they saw Yi-Chin soar into the sky from the underground ruins. They could not help but be overjoyed. Emperor Yi is not dead. Fellow Yi is invincible. It was not just the two of them. Even the faces of the Patriarch of Green Spirit and the rest were filled with shock. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. At that moment, Yi Dongli and Ing Yi were extremely shocked. That was a broken immortal artifact. Even though it was broken, they could still feel its terrifying power. However, Yi-Chen did not die from the attack of the broken immortal artifact. Instead, the injuries on his body were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is impossible, this is impossible. Qi Daolin spat a mouthful of blood. He looked at Yi-Chen, who was walking over from the sky in shock. He was terrified to the extreme. Damn it, how did this happen? Master Mu, who was fighting Yi Dongli, could not believe what he was seeing. How can this brat's physical body be so powerful? Qi Daolin died. As the thunder exploded, it caused the 9 heavens to tremble. Yi-Chen's divine fist was unparalleled. He took a step forward and did not give Qi Daolin any chance to catch his breath. Although the latter had used the broken immortal artifact to attack him, he had almost exhausted all his vital energy and blood to activate the broken immortal artifact. Roar! A dragon's roar broke through the sky. Yi-Chen's fist seemed to be wrapped in golden divine dragons as it shattered the void. As he waved his fist, a terrifying pressure accompanied by monstrous killing intent scattered the clouds. From afar, it looked like a peerless demon god had descended to the world. At that moment, Qi Daolin's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Yi-Chen to still maintain his combat strength at this point. At the same time, he felt a hint of regret. If he had not listened to Master Mu's rotten idea to capture Suyuhan, he might not be where he was today. However, the hatred between the two of them had already been formed. In addition, the arrow had to be fired. If he showed any signs of being weaker than Yi-Chen, he might really die. A hint of madness flashed through Qi Daolin's eyes as he thought to this point. He growled and charged at Yi-Chen. Immortal Palace's past martyr's spirituality assist me in killing this person. As his voice fell, the entire Immortal Palace shook. Then, a streak of red lightning shot out from a small world that had been opened up in the depths of the palace. The red lightning contained countless violent wills and auras. As it streaked across the sky, the entire space seemed to be dyed red with blood. In an instant, whether it was Yi Dongli, Ing, or Musher, they all felt a terrifying aura from the red lightning. Qi Daolin stretched out his hand and directly grabbed the red lightning bolt. However, his figure became incomparably small under the huge lightning bolt. Yi Chen, be careful! When Yi Dongli saw this, his expression changed, and he immediately said, "This is the spiritual consciousness left behind by the previous masters of the immortal palace before they passed away. It possesses great terror." In reality, Yi Chen sensed it even without his reminder. He could not help but scoff. It's just the remnant demonic nature of a group of people who have died long ago. What can they do to me? As soon as he finished speaking, a golden brush suddenly shot out from his hand and pierced through the sky. It was the Emperor brush. Under the golden light that filled the sky, the aura on Yi Chen's body suddenly changed. He was like a supreme king who could judge all living beings in the world with a flick of his finger. Yi Chen held the Emperor brush in his hand. Using true origin energy as ink and the void as paper, the brush moved like a dragon and a snake, waving it energetically. The brush was huge, and the brush was silver. What's that? Many people were stunned when they saw the golden brush that Yi Chen suddenly took out. However, there was deep fear between their brows. Imperial aura. They could actually feel the imperial aura from the brush. At the same time, Musher, who was fighting with Ing, stared at the Emperor brush as endless waves surged in his heart. Immortal artifact. This is an immortal artifact. His mind was buzzing nonstop. Yi Chen actually had an immortal artifact. Even though the immortal artifact was damaged to the point of being a little ugly and had lost all of its immortal energy, he could still recognize that it was an immortal artifact at a glance. When Yi Chen finished the last stroke, a huge golden word appeared in the air. Suppress. This series of actions was completed in an instant. When the brush landed, there was a phenomenon in the sky. Thick yellow airflow swarmed over from all directions on the entire Tongtian mountain. Then it turned into a huge mountain that could cover the sky. The huge mountain soared through the sky with a monstrous momentum. The void shook as if the sky was about to collapse. Rumble! Qi Daolin held the red lightning and collided with the huge mountain. In an instant, it was as if the entire sky had turned into an endless fire domain. In the endless fire domain, a miserable and hysterical scream shook the heavens, like the wail of a ghost and the howl of a wolf. Immediately after, a hole was torn open in the fire domain, and Qi Daolin's sorry figure leaped out. Blurg! As soon as he appeared, he spat a mouthful of blood. His aura was extremely low. He glared at Yi Chen with extreme hatred and was about to escape. Yi Chen's eyes were cold. He glanced at Qi Daolin and shot out without saying anything. He had to kill this person. Trap. He held the Emperor brush in his hand and wrote the word trap in the air. The word formed a formation, and heaven and earth surged and the sea of clouds churned. It formed a cage in the air, trapping Qi Daolin tightly. No matter how hard the latter tried to break it, he could not break it. What kind of method is this? At this moment, Qi Daolin's entire body had already been charred. He was no different from a dried corpse, and his eyes were filled with fear. Master Mu, why aren't you saving me? Thinking to this point, Qi Daolin could not help but shout in fear, If I die, you will definitely die too. In reality, there was no need for him to speak. Master Mu, who was far away, had already sensed it. However, Yi Dongli did not give him a chance. Scram! Master Mu was like a madman. Yi Dongli resisted his terrifying attack head-on, not giving him any chance to escape, even if he was injured. Qi Daolin, it's over. Yi Chen said softly as if it was a death sentence. Qi Daolin could not help but despair. After knowing that he would definitely die, he could not help but roar crazily, Yi, even if I die, I will make you suffer. As soon as he finished speaking, he burned the life force and primordial spirit in his body crazily. Then a huge vortex suddenly appeared in the sky, as if it was being manipulated by a pair of invisible hands. The vortex grew larger and larger, directly enveloping Yi Qin. A terrifying, devouring power and teleportation power came from it. You want to teleport me away? Yi Qin could not help but focus when he saw that. End of this chapter. Chapter 1363. He immediately stopped hesitating. The emperor brush in his hand moved like dragons and snakes, instantly writing a golden word in the air. Dismantle. The huge golden word, dismantle, returned to the void. In an instant, waves of earth-shattering rumbles descended, and the huge vortex disappeared. Die. Yi Qin wrote another word in the air, pointing at Qi Daolin. As soon as the word die was said, Qi Daolin let out a blood-curdling scream. Then his flesh and primordial spirit began to melt at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, his body completely collapsed, and his primordial spirit disappeared as well. The dignified master of the immortal palace, a god who stood above the azure purple world and the ancient desolate realm, died on the spot. Qi Daolin died. Hall Master Qi has lived for tens of thousands of years and is known as the most ancient existence. Almost no one can compete with him. Now he's actually dead. An existence like an immortal god died just like that. It's unbelievable. At this moment, everyone's expressions froze. Only their dull eyes stared quietly at the remaining figure in the air. Shock, ecstasy, disbelief. These complicated emotions flowed through everyone's hearts. Everyone was shocked. This was the end of an era. A king who looked down on all living beings had become the dust of history. It would definitely shock the world and be the best in the world. Amazing! Yi Dongli was also extremely shocked. An intermediate stage soul formation, Cultivator, killing a perfection stage soul formation, Cultivator. Such an achievement has never happened even in Z-Way Star Zone. Very good! Apart from being shocked, a trace of unconcealable battle intent appeared in his eyes. Mad Southerny, I want to fight you again more and more. At that moment, Mu Shi's expression was extremely ugly after he repelled Yi Dongli. It's too late. At this moment, he could not help but feel fear. Qi Daolin's death meant that Yi Qin could free up his hands to deal with him. If he worked together with Yi Dongli, how could he defeat them? What he was most afraid of was that Yi Qin had an immortal weapon. He was invincible. As soon as that thought flashed through his mind, he immediately sensed a cold gaze looking at him. Who else could it be other than Yi Qin? Master Mu's expression changed slightly. He took a deep breath and said, Little friendy, I'll hand over your wife and everyone related to you. Can we bury the hatchet? It wasn't that he hadn't thought of escaping. However, the scene of Yi Chen's emperor brush setting up a trapping formation in the air shocked him. He was unwilling to use it unless he had no other choice. Yi Chen walked toward the former step by step as if he did not hear him. The killing intent on his body rose again. Upon seeing this, Mu Shi couldn't help but fly into a rage. You've already killed Qi Daolin. Why must you be so ruthless? I am the ancestor of the Z-Way Galaxy's Guang Yu sect. This old man has many supreme techniques, heaven-defying Taoist classics, and even countless cultivation secrets. If you are willing to let me go, this old man is willing to enjoy everything. In order to survive, he was almost eloquent. However, Yi Chen remained unmoved. He could not help but roar. Don't you want to step into the void refinement stage? I was a void refinement almighty in my previous life after all. I can guide you to break through. Yi Chen stopped in his tracks. Then he said mockingly, I'm sorry, I don't care about a mere void refinement stage cultivator. At this point, his tone was as cold as hell. Moreover, you dared to covet my woman. That's a capital crime. Boom! After saying that, his aura skyrocketed, as if he was possessed by an ancient demon lord, and he charged at the former. Be *starred. At that moment, Mu-Shur was enraged as well. Madness flashed across his eyes. "Since you don't want me to have an easy time, then give it a try." In an instant, a crack appeared between his brows. Then, a ray of dark light shot out and attacked Yi Chen like lightning. Possession! Yi Dongli's eyes narrowed when he saw that. Then he was shocked. He instantly realized Mu-Shur's wishful thinking. Clearly, Mu-Shur thought that he would not be able to survive under Yi Chen's and his combined attack. He decided to take the risk and try to possess Yi Chen. Even though the iron law of the cultivation world was that each cultivator could only possess once, Mu-Shur was a void refinement almighty. No one could guarantee that he did not have any strange tricks up his sleeve. Thinking to this point, a terrifying divine consciousness surged out from between his brows. He shouted sternly, "Come back!" In his opinion, although Yi Chen had killed Qi Daolin, his divine consciousness was at most at the mid-stage of God transformation. On the other hand, Mu-Shur's divine consciousness was at the void refinement stage. In terms of the strength of his divine consciousness, Yi Chen could not compare to the latter. However, when his divine consciousness surged toward Mu-Shur's primordial spirit, it was as if he had pounced on an iron awl. It was extremely painful, and he could not help but retract his divine consciousness with a muffled groan. When he looked again, Mu-Shur's divine consciousness had already entered Yi Chen's mudball palace. It was extremely fast. Oh no! Yi Dongli's expression changed drastically. He rushed toward Yi Chen as if he was planning to save him. At the same time, after Mu-Shur's primordial spirit pierced into Yi Chen's mudball palace, he sneered sinisterly while searching for Yi Chen's primordial spirit. "Brat, you're still too inexperienced." It was just as Yi Dongli thought. He knew that he was no match for the two of them, so he took the risk to possess Yi Chen. A long time ago, he had obtained a method in the cultivation world that was similar to possession. As long as he devoured the other party's primordial spirit, he could control two bodies at the same time. By then, not only would he be able to control Yi Chen's body, but even Yi Chen's emperor brush and all the secrets in Yi Chen's mind would be his. However, when he sneered and searched for Yi Chen's primordial spirit in Yi Chen's mudball palace, a golden shadow suddenly descended from the sky. The golden shadow was wearing a dragon robe with rolling dragons on it and a flat crown on its head. It looked like a god, and an emperor's dragon might that ruled over the world pressed down from its body. Ah! Mu-Shur's primordial spirit screamed in pain. It felt as if it was being pricked by needles and fell. The emperor's might, this is the emperor's might. He trembled as he looked at the god shadow that was looking down at him with incomparable fear. Who exactly are you? The emperor's might that the figure contained made him unable to resist at all. It was something that he had never felt before. I'm the heavenly emperor, and I should suppress all enemies in the world. The golden god's shadow looked down at him with indifferent eyes. Its voice was like thunder, and the supreme emperor's might pressed down. Heavenly emperor! Mu-Shur cried out in shock. Why, you're the heavenly emperor. You're the heavenly emperor that is wanted by the upper realm. In an instant, his primordial spirit melted and turned into a wisp of extremely pure divine body energy that floated in the mudball palace. The golden figure opened its mouth slightly and directly swallowed the divine body energy, digesting it quickly. End of this chapter. Chapter 1364. I'm wanted by the upper realm. Yi Chen digested Master Mu's memories crazily. It was as if he had been immobilized. He remained motionless, but his expression kept flickering. At the same time, he felt a chill in his heart. Through digesting the essence of Master Mu's primordial spirit, he learned that the reason Ziwei Star region invaded Earth back then was said to be under the orders of the spirit realm. Only the leaders of the various sects knew about this order, and their purpose was to search for his whereabouts on Earth. In other words, his existence was most likely exposed. Those traitors from the immortal world promptly found out that he was still alive. I see endless coldness surged in Yi Chen's heart as he thought to this point. You traitors really fear me like a tiger. Are you still planning to eliminate me after forcing me to such a state? Although this order was sent from the spirit realm was the existence closest to the immortal world. Many powerhouses from the spirit realm had also ascended to the immortal world. These people who ascended were probably under the orders of that traitorous disciple. Then they sent decrees to the sects in the lower realm to search for him. Very well. Yi Chen closed his eyes and scoffed. You traitors, when I return to the 9 heavens, I'll personally send all of you to the immortal slaying platform. 1/ each. Just as he was deep in thought, Yi Dongli rushed over and pointed a finger between his brows, as if he wanted to investigate. Meanwhile, the people in the distance could not help but feel their hearts sink when they saw that Yi Chen did not move at all. There was despair on their faces. At that moment, Yi Chen suddenly opened his eyes. His action shocked Yi Dongli. Don't panic, it's me. Yi Chen smiled lightly. Yi Dongli secretly heaved a sigh of relief and looked at him doubtfully. The Patriarch of Guangming didn't succeed. That old thing is too smart for his own good, Yi Chen said with a mocking smile. If he fought me to the death, I probably wouldn't be able to kill him in a short period of time. His mistake was that he gave up his greatest support. His primordial spirit left his body and entered my Naiwan palace, trying to possess me. At this point, he nodded slightly and made an excuse. Due to my cultivation method, my divine consciousness is countless times denser than people at the same level. In other words, Ancestor Guangming has disappeared. Hearing this, Yi Dongli was shocked, and he couldn't help but sigh. He was once a mighty void training cultivator. I didn't think he would end up like this. At the same time, Yi Hai Wulan and the rest who were waiting anxiously from afar immediately rushed over. Xiaoqin, are you all right? Mom, Dad, I'm fine. Yi Chen gave them a comforting look. Boom! At that moment, a huge explosion sounded from afar. Ying Long had torn Elder Xian's arm apart. Elder Xian was about to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Ying Long. Yi Chen said immediately, Ying, don't kill him. Hearing this, Ying's body froze. He turned around and stared at him in confusion, as if he was displeased. This person has done a great favor for my Yi clan. I hope you can give me some face and treat it as me owing you a favor, Yi Chen said solemnly. He then took a step forward and landed in front of Elder Xian. The latter had already lost his mind and was about to attack him. However, because his injuries were too severe, he fainted on the ground after spitting a mouthful of blood. Yi Chen looked at him with a complicated expression. Subsequently, he sighed softly and formed seals with both hands. He planted countless formations and barriers in his body while he was unconscious to seal him. Don't worry. You've done a great favor for my Yi clan. I'll think of a way to help you recover. Yi Chen mumbled as if he was promising. Blurg. At that moment, he heard the sound of someone vomiting blood. Yi Dongli fell heavily to the ground. Scarlet blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his face aged at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if he was at the end of his life. Yi Chen immediately flashed and helped him up when he saw that. The moment he placed his fingers on Yi Dongli's wrist, his expression changed. Why is your body so complicated? Yi Chen looked at him with a serious expression. Only now did he realize that the vitality and essence in Yi Dongli's body were disappearing rapidly. His internal organs were also failing rapidly. Even if he channeled spiritual energy into Yi Dongli's body in an attempt to protect his life, it was useless. There's no need to save me. Yi Dongli looked at him with a smile. I'm someone who should have died a long time ago. The reason why I'm still alive is because I accidentally swallowed a miraculous medicine 10,000 years ago. It was also because of it that I've survived until now. 10,000 years ago, he charged into the immortal palace and was killed by Qi Daolin. Only his physical body remained. Everyone thought that he was dead, but they did not know that the miraculous medicine in his body was concealing everything. In reality, it was sealing his life force. That was also the reason why he suddenly came back to life. As he spoke, he had already turned from a handsome young man to an old man with white hair and a face full of wrinkles. "Child," Yi Dongli looked at Yi Chen quietly. "Even if you don't want to admit it, you're still my descendant." Yi Chen's lips moved slightly when he heard that. 10,000 years ago, I predicted that an earth-shattering figure would appear among my descendants. Yi Dongli's face did not show any fear of death at all. His gaze was very calm. "Therefore, I prepared countless guides for you. After seeing you, it also proved that my prediction back then was correct. Child, you're a person with great luck." At this point, Yi Dongli's body was covered in endless death energy. "You must have had many fortuitous encounters to be able to reach where you are today. However, the people in the cultivation world are vicious. Before I die, I'll give you a piece of advice. Being too emotional is your fatal flaw." Cough, cough, cough. Blood spurted from the corner of his mouth, and the blood wet his neck. It was a shocking sight, as if he did not have much strength to speak. "Do you have any other wishes?" Yi Chen said sadly. No matter what, the Yi family was indeed Yi Dongli's descendant. It was also the person before him who had helped him at the critical moment. "Wish." Yi Dongli raised his head with all his might, trying to see the sky clearly. His eyes gradually darkened. "If you have the ability to leave Earth, please bring my ashes to Ziwei Star Zone and bury them beside my mother's grave. There's a parasol tree there." He could not help but think of a child who grew up in the Yi family 10,000 years ago. Because his mother was only a maidservant, he was bullied in the Yi family and experienced the coldness of human nature. He would never forget that the woman from the first branch regarded him and his mother as a thorn in her side. She chased them to the stable to sleep with the horses and keep them company. He would never forget that when he was 5 years old, his mother, who could not cultivate, had a high fever. In order to save him, she knelt in front of the woman from the first branch and begged for 3 days and 3 nights. In return, she told her to stay away from him. He could not forget that his mother had sneaked into the pill chamber to steal medicinal pills for him. However, she was beaten to death by that woman as a spy. Later on, the young man was tested to have a heaven's spiritual root during the family test. It shook the Yi family and Ziwei Star Zone. He enjoyed the highest treatment and everyone's fearful and flattering gazes. The honor was so terrifying that he, who had stepped into foundation building at the age of 16, killed that woman. In exchange, he was reprimanded by his father, whom he had never met. As the sun set, Yi Dongli's hand fell heavily. However, his eyes were still looking at the sky. Beyond the sky, there was an existence that he dreamed of. The corners of Yi Chen's eyes were slightly moist. He bowed to him solemnly and hugged him gently. "Ancestor, have a safe journey." Yi Hai cried. The remaining emperors, throne powerhouses from the ancient, desolate realm, knelt on one knee. Tears fell like rain as they said in a tragic voice, "Send off the Eastly Emperor." Ying's expression was calm. Occasionally, she would look at Yi Dongli's body with a hint of respect. Swoosh! At that moment, several figures flew over from afar. It was the Patriarch of Hell and the rest. The Patriarch of Hell was surprised by the speed at which the battle ended. He only looked at Yi Dongli's body after seeing that Yi Chen was fine. "Have a safe journey." He cupped his fist slightly. He then looked at Yi Chen and said in disappointment, "Fellow Yi, I've turned the immortal palace upside down, but I still can't find her." Yi Chen's eyes could not help but heat up when he heard that. He took a deep breath in and said, "I know where Yuhan is locked up." End of this chapter. Chapter 1365. In the immortal palace in the purple bamboo forest. This was a small world created by the immortal palaces almighty in the past. It was usually the place where the palace masters cultivated in seclusion. Later on, it was used by Qi Daolin to imprison important people. The scenery here was extremely exquisite and beautiful. There was an azure lake that was as warm as jade. In the endless bamboo forest, the spiritual energy was so dense that it was almost liquefied. On a pine tree that protruded from a cliff in the forest, there was a beautiful figure trying her best to raise her eyes, as if she wanted to see the outside world clearly. Yi Chen, how are you guys? At that moment, Su Yuhan was no longer as sad as before. There was only worry and anxiety on her beautiful face. She knew that Yi Chen was here. She really wanted to break the formation and see Yi Chen. She wanted to know how the battle between Yi Chen and the Immortal Palace was going. However, the remaining formation forcefully trapped her within, preventing her from leaving the purple bamboo forest. Su Yuhan placed her right hand on her mouth and coughed continuously. Why is there no movement? Why can't I see anything? I can't hear anything. Because of the formation, she could not even hear the slightest movement. If one took a closer look, they would notice that there was a shocking pool of blood on her right palm after she coughed. Yi Chen, nothing can happen to you. Su Yuhan gritted her teeth as her shoulders trembled uncontrollably. The worry in her eyes grew stronger as countless possibilities flashed through her mind. If anything happened to Yi Chen to save her, she would not be able to accept it because it would be more painful than dying herself. At that moment, the bamboo forest in front of her actually retreated to both sides, gradually opening up a path for people to pass through. In an instant, Su Yuhan's face turned extremely pale. She was close to despair. Did something happen to Yi Chen? She could not be blamed for thinking that way. Every time Qi Huang, Qi Daolin, and the rest came, the formation would fluctuate the same way as now. Yi Chen, if anything happens to you... Su Yuhan's body trembled slightly. After taking a deep breath in, her expression was extremely determined. Then I'll go down to accompany you. We didn't spend much time together when we were alive, so we should be able to stay together after death. She stared at the end of the path that suddenly appeared, ready to commit suicide at any time. At that moment, a crisp voice faintly came from the end of the secluded path. Daddy, is Mommy inside? Su Yuhan's body froze. Before she could react, a mature voice came into her ears again. That's right, I'm inside. Since when did I lie to you? Then let's hurry up. Don't let Mom wait too long. The melodious voice from before resounded once more, and it faintly carried a sense of urgency and unconcealable longing. Su Yuhan did not move at all. Her glass-like eyes widened bit by bit at that moment. In her eyes, she saw two figures slowly walking over from the end of the quiet path. The leader was a little girl in a white dress. The little girl looked to be about 5 or 6 years old. She looked like she was carved from jade and looked very cute. However, at this moment, the little fellow quickly rushed to the front. As he ran, he looked into the distance with his black eyes and said, Mommy, where are you? Meng Meng and Daddy are here to pick you up. The little girl was running in a hurry. She staggered and fell hard onto the ground. Su Yuhan wanted to help her up by instinct, but she saw a skinny silhouette coming from behind the little girl. The latter helped the little girl up and patted the dust on her as he squatted down. Did you fall? I'm fine. The little girl shook her head and ran deep into the bamboo forest again. Her big black eyes were filled with anticipation. Meng Meng, my daughter! At that moment, Su Yuhan's heart skipped a beat as she looked at the little body that was taller than she remembered. There was disbelief on her pale face. Mommy! Subsequently, an extremely excited voice came into her ears again. Subsequently, she felt a little body leaping into her embrace. The little girl hugged her thigh tightly as tears flowed down her cheeks. Mommy, I finally see you. I miss you so much. The voice that had appeared in Su Yuhan's dreams countless times completely shattered her heart. She could not help but squat down and hug the little girl tightly. She cried out involuntarily. The endless longing that had accumulated was like a flood that had broken a dam. At that moment, it was as if only the mother and daughter were left in the world. Yi Chen watched the scene quietly. As he looked at the figure that haunted him, there was unconcealable excitement on his calm face. After the mother and daughter in front of him separated, he took a deep breath in and took a step forward. He knelt on one knee and placed one hand on his chest. He looked at the former and said in a trembling voice, "Your Majesty, your most loyal knight is here to bring you home." At that moment, rain started to fall from the sky above the purple bamboo forest, as if it was a silent celebration for the reunion of the family of three. Su Yuhan looked at the figure in front of her stiffly. She had thought about that familiar face for countless days and nights. However, when he really appeared before her, she could not help but be in a daze. She felt that everything was unreal. Like a dream, she looked at the face before her in a daze as she thought to this point. She said in a trembling voice, "Yi Qin, is that really you?" She could not help but extend her slender hand after saying that. She wanted to touch that face gently, but when her hand had just stretched out halfway, she forcefully stopped, because she was deeply afraid that all of this was just an illusion that would shatter at the moment of contact. Yi Qin felt a stabbing pain in his heart for no reason as he looked at her extremely nervous gaze. Su Yuhan's expression was also a sign of extreme desire. Therefore, he could not help but take a deep breath in. He stretched out his hand and gently held the soft hand before placing it on his face. "Yuhan, it's me." He stared blankly at the face that haunted him, and his throat moved as he said, "I'm here to bring you home, my heavenly emperor." He felt the warmth in his hand, together with the words "Heavenly Emperor." Su Yuhan finally confirmed Yi Chen's identity, because the Heavenly Emperor was what Yi Chen had called her in private. It was a secret between the two of them. The line of defense in her heart was completely broken. She covered her mouth with her hand, and dense tears immediately poured out of her beautiful eyes that made all living beings lose color. Subsequently, she threw herself into his embrace and cried tears of joy. It's really you, Yi Chen." End of this chapter. Chapter 1366. In the distance, more than 10 figures appeared out of nowhere. They looked at the two people in the rain quietly, as well as the sensible little girl who was guarding by the side. These people were the Patriarch of Hell and the rest. The Patriarch of Hell looked at the two people in the rain with a complicated expression. Then he turned around and said to Hall, "Master Beiyun, Ing and the rest leave. Give them some time." Hall, Master Beiyun, and the rest nodded, slightly before disappearing without saying a word. It was as if they could not bear to disturb this hard-earned reunion. No matter how excited Yi Hai and Wu Lan were, they suppressed their emotions and left in the end. They did not want to disturb Yi Chen and Wu Lan. The reason being, they knew very well that the two children were the ones who suffered the most from this separation. In the end, even the Patriarch of Hell left. The rain in the sky was getting heavier, but the two figures leaned against each other in the rain as if they were frozen. After some time, Yi Chen reached out and caressed Su Yuhan's face gently. He said guiltily, "I'm sorry I'm late. I've made you suffer." He could not help but feel heartache when he saw Su Yuhan's slightly aged face and the 3,000 strands of hair that had long turned white. Just like the last time, this woman had suffered a lot just to wait for him. Su Yuhan gritted her teeth and shook her head while smiling. She then held Yi Chen's hand and placed it on her towering abdomen. She said softly, "Yi Chen, look, our child." She could not help but frown when she said that. She could not help but grunt. "Your good son kicked me again. Looks like he knows that you, his father, are here to save him." "Our son," Yi Chen looked at her towering abdomen quietly. The familiar feeling that came from the depths of his bloodline, the blood that was as thick as water, surged into his heart, causing his heart to tremble violently. This was Yi Chen's second child, and it was a baby. At that moment, Meng Meng, who was standing obediently at the side, could not help but walk over. She stared at Su Yuhan's abdomen with her black eyes wide open. "Mommy, I have a brother." "Yes, you have a brother." Su Yuhan smiled warmly and hugged him. The little fellow struggled free and placed his ear on her stomach, looking as if he was concentrating on something. Su Yuhan snickered upon seeing that. She then looked at Yi Chen and said, "Yi Chen, why don't you name our son?" "There's no need to rush the name." Yi Chen shook his head and held her hand tightly. He said, while smiling, "Come with me to meet my parents first. They won't wait too long." Within the resplendent and magnificent hall, there were richly ornamented beams and painted rafters, and the spiritual energy was like mist, causing one to feel relaxed and happy. This place was originally the Immortal Palace's discussion hall, but following the deaths of Qi Daolin and the others, most of the Immortal Palace's people either died or fled. So Yi Chen used this place as a temporary shelter. "Dad, Mom," Su Yuhan rejected Yi Chen's help. She forced herself to kneel hard before Yi Hai and Wu Lan as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Get up, get up!" Wu Lan was already sobbing uncontrollably. She helped her up and hugged her tightly, saying, "Child, you've cried. It's our Yi family that has let you down." Beside him, Yi Hai's eyes were also red. Wu Lan was right. The Yi family owed Su Yuhan too much. A woman had waited for Yi Chen twice in a row. No one could imagine how much pain she had to endure. After Su Yuhan separated from Wu Lan, she lifted her head to look at the black-clothed young man standing at the side. "Patriarch!" Before she was brought to the ancient desolate realm by Old Xian, the Patriarch of Hell was in closed-door cultivation in the old forest in the northeast. Therefore, she did not know that the Patriarch of Hell had taken over the body of a human. However, based on their past familiarity, she still recognized him at a glance. The young man with a mischievous smile on his face was the Patriarch of Hell. "Miss Su, you're really smart. You actually recognized me at first glance." The Patriarch of Yellow Spring was extremely surprised. However, when his gaze landed on Su Yuhan's white hair, he could not help but sigh softly to himself. "Wu Shuang." When Su Yuhan's gaze landed on Yi Wu Shuang, her beautiful eyes could not help but light up. She took a few steps forward and caressed his shoulder. "My Wu Shuang is getting more and more handsome. Do you have a girlfriend?" "Sister-in-law." A hint of embarrassment flashed across Yi Wu Shuang's cold face. His shy look surprised the rest. It was their first time seeing Yi Wu Shuang act like that. "Mistress." Xiao Hei, who was also a black-clothed young man like the Patriarch, knelt on one knee before her with an extremely respectful expression. "You are." Su Yuhan was slightly stunned. Then she seemed to have recalled something and could not help but widen her beautiful eyes. "Xiao Hei?" "It's me, mistress." Xiao Hei scratched his head and smiled honestly. "You guys have changed too much." Su Yuhan sighed internally as she looked at the unfamiliar faces next to Yi Chen. Then she spat a mouthful of blood and fell heavily to the ground. The sudden scene caused everyone's expression to change drastically. Yi Chen reacted quickly and pulled her into his embrace. Yi Hai and Wu Lan looked at Yi Chen worriedly. "Xiaochen, what's wrong with Yuhan?" "Mommy." Meng Meng cried on the spot. "I'm fine. Wait for me." Yi Chen smiled lightly and gave the Patriarch of Hell a look. He carried Su Yuhan into the secret chamber immediately. Yi Hai and the rest could only stay where they were, their faces filled with worry. In the secret chamber, Yi Chen sat cross-legged before Su Yuhan. At that moment, Su Yuhan's face was as pale as a sheet. Her body was extremely weak, and there was a faint aura of death spreading from her body. Yi Chen's expression was extremely serious. He then took a deep breath in and waved his sleeve. He took out many spirit stones from his storage ring and channeled them into Su Yuhan's body. After Su Yuhan looked much better, he took out the remaining bottle of longevity pills and fed Su Yuhan 3 of them. He had refined the longevity pills previously. Due to the limited materials, each pill could only increase one's lifespan by 5 years. 3 pills would increase one's lifespan by 15 years. However, even after Su Yuhan consumed all 3 longevity pills, the aura of death on her body did not weaken at all. Instead, it became more and more serious. At this time, Patriarch Yellow Springs. Sigh came from afar. Miss Sue's vitality and lifespan are almost exhausted. If it weren't for her great talent and entering the nascent soul realm, I'm afraid she wouldn't have lasted until you came. At this point, he sighed again. Also, during her pregnancy, the fetus indirectly lowered her physique and even absorbed a portion of her vitality. If it's just vitality, it wouldn't be so troublesome. Yi-Chin could not help but force a smile when he heard that. It's mainly because Yuhan has developed a resistance to the medicine. Ms. Su has consumed the longevity pill before. The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed when he heard that cultivators can only consume the longevity pill 3 times in their lives. Once they consume too many, it won't work anymore. This is the iron law of cultivation. End of this chapter. Chapter 1367. Yi-Chin was speechless as he looked at the unconscious Su Yuhan quietly. His heart ached. Silly girl, why are you wasting your lifespan and life force? Patriarch Yellow Spring was right. Although cultivators could extend their lifespan with the help of pills, they had no other choice. This was because a cultivator could only take 3 life-extending elixirs in their lifetime. After that, no matter how many life-extending elixirs there were, they would no longer have any effect. As the saying goes, the heavenly Tao is merciless. If a person could infinitely increase his lifespan with the help of the longevity elixir, why would cultivators need to become stronger and strive to break through new realms to increase their lifespan? If that was really the case, a mortal could also borrow the help of longevity pills to achieve immortality. However, the prerequisite was that he did not make enemies with others. This was the iron law of cultivation. The Patriarch of Hell seemed to be unable to bear to look at Su Yuhan. He moved his lips slightly and said, "Fellow Yi, there's only one way now. Let Yuhan become a soul formation cultivator." Yi-Chin sighed softly. Apart from getting Yuhan to enter the God transformation stage now, only then can she replenish the vitality and lifespan in her body. But Patriarch Netherworld smiled bitterly and said, "Miss Su is only at the early stage of nascent soul now. It's not easy for her to step into the soul formation stage. No matter how talented she is, she can't do it in her limited life." Although he did not check her body condition, he could tell from the aura of death on her face that she had a year left at most. 1 year. Yuhan only has 1 year left. Yi-Chin shook his head, feeling extremely pressured. Since longevity pills were useless, he could only break through to a higher realm to increase his lifespan. Unless he could recover his cultivation base of a human immortal, he could use his immortal core to perform the divine ability, the Qixi life extending spell, to forcefully extend Su Yuhan's life. Of course, the celestial pills from the immortal world could achieve this as well. However, it wasn't realistic in the end. Even he did not have absolute confidence that she could advance from early stage nascent soul to soul formation within a year. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been so many nascent soul cultivators who were stuck at the threshold of the soul formation stage and eventually passed away helplessly. Time passed quickly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During those 3 days, Yi-Chin stayed in the secret room and channeled spiritual power into Su Yuhan's body almost non-stop. During this period of time after the spiritual stones were used up, he had no choice but to ask Forefather Yellow Spring to pay a visit to the 4 great regions of the azure purple world. No matter which sect they were from, they had to respectfully offer the spiritual stones to him. The news of Yi-Chin killing the master of the immortal palace, Qi Daolin, had already spread. The entire vast purple world was shocked to the point that their scalps went numb. In particular, many forces who had attacked Yi-Chin before were trembling with fear. Under such circumstances, all the major forces were living in Yi-Chin's shadow. They were trying to be wiped out by Yi-Chin. Therefore, there was no reason to reject the Patriarch of Hell's request. Throughout the 3 days, Su Yuhan's body finally took a turn for the better, and her complexion gradually recovered. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, she woke up from her coma. When she opened her eyes and saw Yi-Chin, who looked exhausted, Her eyes could not help but redden. Yi-Chin, I'm fine. Yi-Chin secretly sighed, but he said while smiling, you should rest well now. Leave everything to me. I know my own situation. However, Su Yuhan revealed an extremely strong smile. You don't have to care about my feelings, really. Yi-Chin immediately covered her lips and said softly, Yuhan, trust me. I'll think of a way to get you to God transformation within a year. All right. Su Yuhan revealed a happy smile when she met his firm gaze. Then, she rested her head on his shoulder and fell asleep again. Yi-Chin placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. He turned around and walked out. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Yi-Hai and Wulan walking up to him nervously. Xiaoqin, how's Yuhan? Don't worry, she's fine. Yi-Chun smiled lightly and made way for his parents to take care of Su Yuhan. However, there was a hint of sadness in the depths of his eyes. Brother, sister-in-law's condition. Yi Wushuang walked over and hesitated. How could he not tell that Su Yuhan's condition was terrible? 1 year. She only has 1 year left. Yi-Chin heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Wushuang's eyes dimmed when he heard that. If we return to the immortal world, we can save sister-in-law with the immortal pill. Before he could finish, he shook his head. Return to the immortal world? How could it be that easy? Even a Mahayana Almighty, who is known as the #1 person below true immortals, could not step into the immortal world without feeling the power of the immortal world. Yi Chen's eyes turned slightly cold. He then looked at Yi Wushuang and said, I'm afraid you don't know this. I found out from Master Mu's memory that the people who invaded Earth in Ziwei Star Zone received a secret order from the spirit world. Spirit world? Yi Wushuang was stunned at first. Then he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed slightly. Brother, are you saying that the traitors in the immortal world know where we are? At this point, he could not help but frown. But Ziwei Star Zone invaded Earth thousands of years ago. Brother wasn't even born back then, nor did he go to the immortal world. It doesn't make sense. That's what I don't understand. Yi Chin nodded lightly and said, After all, it involves karma and space-time. Perhaps karma and space-time have been reversed and messed up. After all, you know that the space-time on Earth is different from the cultivation world and the immortal world. There was something else that he did not say. Back then, he was brought to the cultivation world after he was drowned by the Su family and found the immortal drift bottle at the bottom of the river. How could there be a treasure like the immortal drift bottle on Earth? He had studied the immortal drift bottle countless times in the immortal world, but he could not figure it out. He only knew that although the immortal drift bottle was not a magic tool, a spirit tool, or an immortal tool, it was above immortal tools. At the same time, he could not help but find out from Master Mu's memory that Master Mu had speculated that he, Yi Chin, was a backup plan left behind by the Earth's heavenly Tao before it died. Could it be that the Earth's heavenly Tao arranged for me to go to the cultivation world, including the immortal drift bottle? Yi Chin could not help but break out in cold sweat as he thought to this point. It seems like it's time to find Chan and my brother. If it was really the heavenly Tao's doing, did it not mean that Yi Chin was a chess piece of the Earth's heavenly Tao? What would be waiting for him in the future? After saying that, he immediately got Yi Wushuang to guard the entrance of the Immortal Palace's core, while he stepped into the immortal world's core alone. He found out from Master Mu's memory that Chan and his brother were imprisoned in the Immortal Palace's core. He had been busy healing Su Yuhan in the past 3 days, so he did not have the time to think about that. However, he had to reevaluate Chan now. End of this chapter. Chapter 1368. In the hinterland of Tongtian Mountain, there was an extremely low-lying area. This place was known as the Broken Soul Ridge, and it was covered in thick death energy and Yin energy all year round. From time to time, there would be screams, so even the original members of the Immortal Palace did not dare to step into this place. However, the people of the world did not know that this place was actually used by the Immortal Palace to imprison mortals. Anyone who resisted the Immortal Palace or committed a heinous crime within the Immortal Palace would be imprisoned here. There was not even a trace of spiritual energy in the broken soul ridge. Even a soul formation cultivator would turn into a pile of bones after being imprisoned here for a long time. In the prison that had a formation set up, there were extremely withered and old figures lying there. Among them were the upper echelons of the various sects in the purple world, as well as the leaders of the sects or the patriarchs of the clans. The figures did not cry out, nor did they resist. There was only despair, numbness, and decay. Right at this moment, a clear and melodious sound resounded from outside the prison cell. Kacha! At that moment, many people who were still alive in the prison subconsciously raised their heads and saw a thin young man in green slowly walk in. With just a glance, most of them lowered their heads again. In their opinion, the Immortal Palace must have sent someone to send one of them on their way. After thousands of years, most of them were used to seeing life and death. They seemed to be used to such a scene. The prison was shrouded in a stench and filthy aura. Yi-Chin entered with his hands behind his back. He frowned slightly and looked at everything expressionlessly. His gaze swept past the ragged, skinny, and weak figures in the cages. When his gaze swept over, he was met with numbness, hatred, and even grimacing expressions. Qian is in room number 1. Yi-Chin sped up and walked towards the end of the prison. At that moment, he heard a chuckle. Little brother, you look unfamiliar. You've just entered the Immortal Palace, right? Yi-Chin could not help but look over upon hearing that. He saw an old man with long hair and a black robe sitting in the last cage on the left at the end of the corridor. The old man's body was filled with evil energy. At that moment, he was grinning at Yi-Chin. There was a faint, terrifying, evil aura on him. When the prisoners around him saw that he was the one who spoke, they subconsciously moved to the side with fear and wariness in their eyes. Because this person was extremely strange. No one knew how long he had been locked up. All they knew was that he was the first to be locked up. Everyone else had died, but he was still alive. The strangest thing about this person was that he knew how to tempt people. One moment he said that he was the reincarnation of an immortal venerable and that he knew immortal arts. The next moment he said that he had a cultivation technique that could lead to immortality. Over the years, it was unknown how many waves of disciples guarding the heavenly prison had changed. Among them were soul formation cultivators and nascent soul cultivators, but they were all dead. After listening to this person's words, some of the disciples who were guarding the place started to cultivate the cultivation method that he taught them, causing them to suffer from chi deviation or to be burned by the true fire. In the end, they died. Yi-Chin suddenly stopped walking. The black-clothed old man's eyes lit up, and he immediately said, "Little brother, I guessed correctly, right? From your young age, it seems like you are a young disciple that just entered Immortal Palace." The black-clothed old man chattered on. "I also guessed that you were definitely not liked by the higher-ups, or that you offended someone. That's why you were sent here to guard the heavenly prison." Yi-Chen's eyes flickered as he looked at him. He said with a forced smile, "Are you so sure that I'm from the Immortal Palace?" "Of course." The black-clothed old man could not help but sigh softly. He looked at Yi-Chen with utmost sincerity. "Little brother, you're unlucky. This heavenly prison isn't a good place. It gathers death energy and resentment. Moreover, the people locked up there are all heinous people." Many people in the other prisons secretly shook their heads when they heard that. Their gazes at Yi-Chin became mischievous and sympathetic. They didn't know how many times they had heard this kind of conversation. This old fellow from Earth Prison number 1 was going to trick people again. As expected, before Yi-Chin could speak, he said again, "Little brother, look at me. I'm locked up here, and I'm not far from death. This person wants to find a successor for himself before he dies. Even if he dies, he can die with a smile." He could not help but look at Yi-Chen sincerely as he said to this point, "I think you're a good person, little brother. I might as well pass on my mantle to you before I die. I wonder if you're willing?" Yi-Chin smiled. "What can you teach me?" "There's a lot." The black-clothed old man was overjoyed when he heard that. He said, as if he was counting his family treasures, "I've roamed the world for thousands of years and met countless great figures. I know all sorts of immortal blessings, rare fruits, and innumerable spells." He paused for a moment and said, "I have a set of great Tao-Tai method here. It can devour the energy of the heavens to strengthen oneself. When one cultivates it to mastery, one can devour the heavens, devour the earth, and devour everything." He stared at Yi Chen without blinking when he said that. He continued after seeing that the latter did not react at all. "I also have a set of leg techniques that can crush heaven and earth. It's called the heavenly crippling leg. You only need to chop off one of your legs to cultivate it to mastery." Seeing that Yi Chen had not discovered anything, he seemed to be a little anxious and said, "You don't like it? All right, I also have a set of sunflower book here. When one cultivates it to the 9th level, one can transform into the rising sun to compete with the heavens. However, if one wants to cultivate this technique, one must first castrate oneself. If one wants to cultivate this technique, one must first castrate oneself." Shock flashed across Yi Chen's face. The black-clothed old man nodded repeatedly. "That's right. However, we're both cultivators. We're destined to be heartless and have few desires. As long as we can become stronger, that thing is useless." Yi Chen's expression changed immediately, as if he was hesitating. The black-clothed old man was secretly delighted, but he pretended to be in a difficult position and said, "If there's really no other way, I still have a set of heart, sword, Zen technique here. If one cultivates it to mastery, one will be indestructible." Seeing him ramble on, the prisoners around him hurriedly turned their heads away, not daring to look or listen. "Little brother, this old man has given you a chance. The opportunity is right before your eyes. Whether or not you want to cherish, it is up to you." The black-clothed old man said with incomparable sincerity, "I just want to pass down my legacy before I die. I hope you can fulfill my wish." Yi Chen suddenly said, "Why are you locked up here?" The black-clothed old man was instantly stunned when he heard this, and he seemed to have never expected that she would ask such a question. He couldn't help but spin his eyes as he said, "That old bastard Qi Daolin took a fancy to this old man's inheritance, yet he couldn't seize it forcefully, so he set up a trap to capture me and trap me here." "Enough!" Yi Chen suddenly interrupted him and looked at him with a forced smile. "You have such pure demonic energy on you. Tell me, which part of the devil realm are you from?" As his voice fell, a glint flashed in the depths of the black-clothed old man's eyes. Then he said without batting an eyelid, "Little brother, you really know how to joke. What demon world? I'm just an old man that's about to die. You're quite good at pretending." Yi Chen chuckled softly as if he was mocking. "Some of the cultivation methods that you mentioned earlier have drawbacks. You'll either have to chop off one of your legs or castrate yourself." He looked at the old man quietly. "You did it on purpose to lure out the last cultivation method, called the Heart Sword Zen technique, because you want to escape. I don't understand what you're talking about." The black-clothed old man's expression changed slightly, and he said furiously, "Since you don't want to believe me, then leave Heart Sword Zen technique." Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back. He said with a light smile in a voice that only the old man could hear. Its original name was Demonic Parasitic Medium. It originated from the Borneo world of the Devil Realm, and was then passed down to the Spirit Realm. It was renamed Heart Sword Zen Technique. If a cultivator cultivates it to perfection, even if his body and soul are destroyed, as long as there are demonic thoughts in others' hearts, he will be resurrected. Before he could finish, the black-clothed old man's expression changed drastically. He glared at Yi Chen. "Who exactly are you?" The shock in his heart had reached an extreme point. Not only did Yi Chen know about the demon world, but he also knew about the real name of Borneo world among the 33 worlds of the demon world. He even knew about the origin of the spirit realm and the Heart Sword Zen technique. This was not something a small cultivator from the Kiliacosm could know. I'm someone you can't imagine. Yi Chen lowered his voice and looked at him calmly. He said, if you want to escape, you'll only have a chance if you submit to me. Cunning brat. The black-clothed old man smirked coldly. You want me, the supreme Duqian Demon King, to submit to you? That's pure wishful thinking. Chapter 1369. Up to you. Yi Chen chuckled softly. Then he turned around and walked towards the end of the prison. There was a large prison that had been opened up separately. Why is that brat going to Sky Cage number 1? The old man in black looked at his figure, his eyes flickering nonstop. This brat is so strange. He's definitely not an ordinary person. It's extremely likely that he's a higher-up of the Immortal Palace. No, even that Aunt Chi Daolin isn't as terrifying as him. The others were also confused. The surroundings of the prison were made of meteorites from outer space, and every pillar was engraved with dense runes and restrictions. This was the Sky Cage number 1 in the Immortal Palace's prison. No one knew what was locked inside, not even the prisoners in the other prisons. At this moment, in the Sky Cage number 1, there was a little girl about 5 or 6 years old hanging in midair. Her body was tied with chains covered in runes, and the chains were connected to the surrounding walls. The little girl wore tattered clothes, and her face was pitch black. Her eyes were slightly closed, and there were a few holes in her shoes, revealing her toes that were red from the cold. If one took a closer look, they would discover that the little girl's entire body was covered in frost. Her body was thin, and her face revealed great pain, as if she was enduring some great pain. On her shoulders, legs, chest, and many other parts of her body, there were 9 black iron nails that emitted a monstrous, cold air tightly fastened to her body. On the ground below the little girl, there was a little boy about 2 or 3 years old. His entire body was sealed in ice, like an ice sculpture. Qian, outside the cage, Yi Chen looked at the little girl who was nailed in midair, quietly. His eyes twitched faintly. Spirit devouring body absolute formation. What a vicious method! He clenched his fists tightly and his heart ached. The so-called spirit devouring body absolute formation was an extremely vicious method in the cultivation world. It pierced 9 hellbone nails into the human body. The 9 hellbone nails sealed the 9 entrances of the human body, and then continuously extracted the life force and energy from his body. The victim would suffer a pain that made him wish he was dead. Chi Daolin and the others were afraid of Qian's identity and were worried that something would happen. That was why they used this vicious formation to suppress her. Chi Daolin, Mu Shi. Yi Chen regretted not turning the 2 of them into ashes. It was insane to use such a vicious technique on a 5-year-old girl. Little brother! When his gaze landed on the ice sculpture on the ground, he discovered that the little boy in the ice had a dignified appearance, and his brows were somewhat similar to his. Little brother, Big Brother is here to save you. After taking a deep breath in, Yi Chen activated his true origin energy and performed the major 5 elements restriction-breaking tactic to break the cage forcefully. He then stepped in. With a wave of his sleeve, he immediately embraced Lord Ice's younger brother, and then divine flames shot out from his eyes and enveloped the ice sculpture. As the cold air rose, the ice sculpture melted in a short moment, revealing the appearance of the little fellow in his arms. The little girl was only a year old, but her body was exactly the same as a 2 or 3-year-old. She had thick brows and big eyes, and she looked a little braver than Yi Chen. Yi Chen could not help but heave a sigh of relief when he sensed that his brother's aura was still around. He then turned around to look at Qian, who was nailed in midair. Retrieve! He stretched out his hand from afar, and a terrifying devouring power came from his palm. He immediately sucked out the 9 black nails that fixed the little girl in place. Break! Immediately after, he used his fingers as a blade, and 2 streaks of saber gleam cut through the air and slashed at the chains that trapped the little girl. The little girl fell to the ground quickly, but Yi Chen caught her with one hand and carried her in his arms. A strange scene followed. The little girl's complexion and aged face immediately recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the wounds on her body were no exception. Yi Chen's eyes flashed imperceptibly, as expected of the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. Cough, cough, cough! As a series of violent coughs were heard, Qian opened her eyes slowly. She could not help but be overjoyed when she saw Yi Chen. Big brother! Yi Chen looked at her with a complicated gaze. His rationality told him that the person in his arms was not an ordinary 5- or 6-year-old child, but the reincarnation of the heavenly Tao. Big brother, did you save me? Qian looked around, and when she noticed the broken chain, a look of fear emerged on her little face. Eventually, Yi Chen said softly, "Yes, Big Brother is here to save you. Come out with Big Brother." Qian lowered her head and looked at her dirty self. She lowered her head and said weakly, "Big Brother, put me down. I can walk by myself." She was afraid that she would dirty Yi Chen's clothes. "All right." Yi Chen put her down. "Thank you, Big Brother." Qian wiped her tears and looked at Yi Chen with gratitude. "I thought I would never see you again. It's okay. You're safe now." Yi Chen could not bear to hold her hand. He carried his brother in one hand and walked out of Sky Number 1 prison. The moment Yi Chen walked out of Sky Number 1 prison with Qian, all the prisoners in the prison fixed their eyes on them. Who is that little girl? And the little guy in that kid's arms? Oh my God, they actually walked out of Sky Number 1 prison. Could it be that the little girl and the little guy are the people imprisoned in Sky No 1 prison? The originally silent heavenly prison was instantly filled with countless whispers. They could not be blamed for being so shocked. Sky Number 1 prison was extremely mysterious in their eyes, and there were soul formation cultivators among them. Even so, they still did not deserve to be locked in Sky Number 1 prison. Even the old man in black, who was extremely strange in their eyes, only deserved to be locked in Earth prison. The old man in Earth prison stared at Qian with deep shock in his heart. Strange, this little girl clearly doesn't have any cultivation base in her body. So why does she give me a creepy feeling? At that moment, he felt that the power in his body was about to go berserk, as if he was about to go berserk. Under countless gazes, Qian seemed a little afraid. She landed behind Yi Chen by instinct and peeked her head out to look at the prisoners timidly. Yi Chen patted her hand by instinct and comforted her softly. "Don't be afraid. They can't hurt you." "Big brother, who are they?" Qian finally mustered up her courage and scanned each cage one by one. "Are they all locked up here like me?" "Yes, they're the same as you." Yi Chen nodded. "They're so pitiful." Qian's eyes glistened with tears. She tugged at the corner of Yi Chen's shirt and begged him, "Big brother, can you let them out?" Yi Chen wanted to refuse by instinct. However, on second thought, he had already destroyed the immortal palace. After he left, the prison would collapse sooner or later without the support of energy, and the people inside would escape. Instead of that, it would be easier for Yi Chen to let them out in advance. After all, there were more than 10 soul formation powerhouses among them, and there were countless golden core cultivators. The conversation between the two of them was heard by everyone. In an instant, there were countless arguments in the heavenly prison. "Little brother, I'm the 2nd generation sect master of the Void Infinity sect. As long as you let me out, I'll definitely reward you. I'm the sect master of the Fire Worship sect in the Mystic Yang region. Little brother, if you let me out, I'm willing to serve you. The entire prison was shaken. Yi Chen secretly scoffed when he heard the many prisoners' promises to him. Subsequently, he walked to a cage and used his finger as a blade to cut the lock directly. Inside was a red-haired old man at the beginner soul formation stage. The old man claimed to be the sect master of the Fire Worship sect in the Mystic Yang region. "Ha ha ha! I, the Fire Worship Divine Lord, am finally free." As soon as the red-haired old man walked out of the cage, he threw his head back and laughed. "Qi Daolin, you destroyed my Fire Worship sect and imprisoned me here. I'll repay you tenfold." It's time for you to fulfill your promise. Yi Chen interrupted him and said expressionlessly, You can kneel and acknowledge me as your master now. Acknowledge you as my master? The red-haired old man sneered when he heard that. A cold, killing intent flashed across his eyes. Brat, I was just bluffing you to escape earlier. You actually took it seriously. In order to thank you, I can leave your corpse intact. With that, he shook his sleeve and extended his hand at Yi Chen with a monstrous aura. Terrifying flames bloomed on his fingers. Chapter 1370. Thud, under everyone's gazes, a large head was thrown into the air. The eyes on the head were wide open, as if they were filled with shock and disbelief. Plop! The red-haired old man's headless body fell heavily to the ground. Yi Chen said without even lifting his head, I knew you would do this. Immediately after, a red light shot out from the corpse on the ground, revealing a panic-stricken face. Then it was about to break through the air and leave. Yi Chen curled his fingers slightly and grabbed the former from afar. The former's expression was filled with fear. My lord, spare me! Bang! Before he was done speaking, Yi Chen crushed him into pieces. In an instant, the entire prison fell into dead silence. Everyone looked at Yi Chen with fear in their eyes. Killing a beginner stage god transformation, stage powerhouse instantly? From the beginning to the end, the fire worship sect master did not even have the strength to resist. His soul was destroyed just like that. At this moment, they finally realized that Yi Chen was not as simple as they had imagined. Decisive and decisive. Interesting, the black-clothed old man in the earth cage could not help but narrow his eyes and praise. This brat has a 10,000th of my elegance when I was young. Yi Chen ignored everyone's gazes and said lightly, Let me introduce myself. I'm Mad Southern Yi. I've destroyed the immortal palace you guys are talking about. The moment these words were spoken, it was like a thunderclap that stirred up an endless storm and shock in the surroundings. What? He destroyed the immortal palace. How is this possible? The immortal palace has the 5 hallmasters and other late-stage god, transformation stage powerhouses. In addition, there's Qi Daolin, the master of the immortal palace, who's a perfected god, transformation stage powerhouse. How could they be destroyed so easily? Everyone was shocked and could not believe their ears. Even the black-clothed old man in the earth cage was no exception. Yi Chen said again, None of the 5 immortal palace masters that you guys mentioned were left alive. Qi Daolin has already died in my hands. Brat, don't even think about lying to us. A late-stage god transformation stage old man in a prison sneered. You think you can destroy the immortal palace? Do you really think we're 3-year-olds? Really? Yi Chen shook his head lightly and lifted his eyes to look at him. Suddenly, 2 beams of divine light shot out from his eyes and charged at the former. Ah! The former screamed as his body collapsed on the spot. Only his primordial spirit escaped. However, his eyes were filled with fear when he looked at Yi Chen again. What kind of divine ability was this? It actually destroyed his physical body. On the other hand, the pupils of the others constricted violently while tempestuous waves that were intense to the extreme arose in their hearts. Yes, I did. You wanted me to brand you with my soul. Yi Chen smiled sinisterly and enunciated word by word. As for those who don't want me to plant the primordial spirit imprint and don't want to come out, there's only one outcome, death. An hour later, there were close to 100 figures standing before Yi Chen. Among them, there was 1 advanced stage god transformation stage, 5 mid-stage god transformation stage, 10 early stage god transformation stage, and the rest were nascent soul cultivators. This old man, Hai Wuya, greets the High Lord. The leading old man smiled bitterly and knelt on one knee before Yi Chen. From now on, his life was in Yi Chen's hands. Plop! At the same time, the other 100 people knelt at Yi Chen and shouted, Greetings, High Lord! They finally believed what Yi Qin said after Yi Qin killed a few god transformation stage cultivators, one after another. They could only let Yi Chen plant the soul imprint in their bodies obediently. Yi Qin ignored them and turned around to look at the old man in black in the earth prison. He said with a forced smile, "Are you choosing death?" The old man's expression changed slightly before he said coldly, "Fellow, one should forgive people whenever possible. Don't go overboard. I'm not like the trash behind you. I'm sorry." Yi Chen shook his head and said with a cold smile, "I like to control everything when I do things. I don't like any factors that are unfavorable to me. I'll either subdue them or kill them." He was certain that the old man before him must have come from the devil world, and the devil world was on the same level as the immortal world. There must be some secret for the other party to appear here. Such an existence was even more threatening. "Then I'll have to kill you." Yi Chen's voice was slightly cold. Before he finished speaking, his body flashed, and he appeared outside the earth prison in the next moment. The old man's expression changed drastically, and he could not help but say repeatedly, "Wait, I submit, I submit. Let me plant the soul imprint." Yi Chen broke the lock and forced him to give up resisting. He planted the primordial spirit imprint in his body and said, "Tell me now, where are you from? What's your name? Why are you here?" "My name is Du Tian Devil King." A gleam flashed through the old man's eyes as he secretly sent a voice transmission. "I'm from the devil world's Du Tian Devil region. I accidentally landed in this world due to an accident." Stubborn, Yi Chen scoffed coldly and retracted the primordial spirit imprint that he planted in his body. The old man screamed continuously and revealed a pained expression. "To be precise, I'm a wisp of the Du Tian Devil King's demonic consciousness. To avoid his pursuit, I had no choice but to hide in this world." As he narrated, Yi Chen gradually found out that the master of the devil world's Du Tian Devil region, the Du Tian Devil King, had encountered problem during his closed-door cultivation. A wisp of demonic consciousness took the opportunity to betray him and fell into the spatial turbulence in a hurry. In the end, he came here and possessed a mid-stage god transformation stage powerhouse who was about to die, but he could not escape. Du Tian Devil Region? Du Tian Devil King? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. He had been to the devil world before, but he had never heard of this place. However, he was sure that the old man was telling the truth. The devil world was divided differently from the cultivation world and the immortal world. They were true demons, heavenly demons, devil generals, supreme true demons, foreign demons, demon kings, demon emperors, demon gods. The corresponding immortal world realms were true immortal, mysterious immortal, heavenly immortal, golden immortal, overarching heavenly supreme immortal, great overarching golden immortal, immortal lord, immortal king, primordial chaos great overarching golden immortal. Meanwhile, Yi Chen was once a primordial chaos, great overarching golden. Immortal, venerable, and heavenly emperor were just titles. They represented the king of immortal kings, which was equivalent to the master of the devil world, the demon gods. This Du Tian Devil King must have the cultivation of a demon king, which was why he could rule a region by himself. His cultivation level was equivalent to the primordial chaos great overarching golden immortal in the immortal world. "Looks like I was overthinking." Yi Chen secretly heaved a sigh of relief as he thought to this point. He thought that the people from the devil world had found out about his whereabouts and had infiltrated here. "You're just a wisp of demonic consciousness. You have no cultivation base." Yi Chen then looked at the old man in black and said, "You can only rely on deceiving others. Therefore, you immediately admitted defeat when you saw that I was serious earlier. Sir, although I'm just a wisp of demonic consciousness of the Du Tian Devil King, I've inherited most of his memories." The old man in black thought that Yi Chen thought he was useless. He could not help but say in fear and trepidation, "I know many cultivation methods and even immortal spells that your world doesn't have. That's why I've kept you alive until now." Yi Chen secretly scoffed and said, "If you're smart, Perhaps I'll help you return to the devil world in the future and devour the Duqian Devil King's main consciousness. Who knows, you might even be able to take over. This was also an idea that he had on the spur of the moment. It was very difficult to return to the immortal world, but it was much easier to go to the devil world. After all, the devil world had repeatedly infiltrated the lower realms in an attempt to enslave the worlds. Therefore, many worlds had passageways to the devil world. Thank you, sir. The old man in black was overjoyed. Let's go. Yi Chen turned around and glanced at the 100 people behind him before walking out of the prison with Qianqian. When he reappeared at the entrance of the Immortal Palace's meeting hall, Yi Wushuang quickly walked up to him and said, "Big brother, sister-in-law is about to give birth." Chapter 1371. Yu Han is going to give birth. Yi Chen's body trembled when he heard what Yi Wushuang said. Then, endless joy surged in his eyes. Yu Han was going to give birth. Yi Chen's second child in this world was about to be born. He immediately turned around and walked into the depths of the hall. He seemed to be too excited and staggered. Yi Wushuang hurriedly supported him. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. It was the first time he had seen Yi Chen lose his composure like that. However, he was also extremely happy. He and Yi Chen were not family, but they were more like family. Naturally, he was looking forward to the birth of the little girl. At that moment, the depths of the conference hall were already filled with people. The Patriarch of Hell, Shi Qianhan, and the rest. In front of them was a curtain that was separated by a piece of cloth. A heart-wrenching scream of pain could be heard from the room in front of the curtain. Everyone nervously peered through the curtain. Even though the curtain had the effect of blocking divine senses, it could not stop the nervousness in everyone's hearts. At that moment, Yi Hai paced back and forth in the corridor from time to time. When he saw Yi Chen and Qian Han walking over, he immediately went up to them. "Xiao Chen, Yu Han is going to give birth. Your mother and Miss Zhou are taking care of her inside." He only noticed the dignified little girl in Yi Chen's arms after saying that. He could not help but be delighted. Xiaoxing, Yi Chen handed his brother and Qianqian to him. He was about to lift the curtain and enter nervously when Yi Hai stopped him. "Xiaoqin, it's better if you don't go in. You're a man. If you don't know how to deliver a baby, you'll only be troubled if you go in. Trust your mother." Yi Hai knew that he was nervous, but he still comforted him. "It's better to be quiet at a time like this. Dad, I'm really worried if I don't go in and watch over her." Yi Chen forced a smile and was about to go in immediately. Then he suddenly turned around and looked outside the immortal palace. His gaze was extremely cold. "Are these bastards courting death?" In the next moment, he disappeared on the spot. After him, the Patriarch of Hell seemed to have sensed something. He sneered and followed him out. What happened? This sudden scene caused the remaining people who remained on the spot to be extremely astonished, and a few of them followed him out, outside the mortal palace in the mountains. At this moment, regardless of whether it was on the ground or in the sky, there were countless black figures that covered the sky and covered the earth. The ground was shaking, the sky was shaking, rocks were falling, and the mountains were trembling. It was as if a magnificent army was charging over. All kinds of terrifying auras filled the air, causing people's hearts to tremble. If one were to look carefully, one would notice that the numerous black shadows were demon beasts of various shapes and sizes, and their entire bodies emitted monstrous, ferocious auras. There was a giant black ape running wildly in the forest, crossing thousands of feet with a single step. It was like a giant with the blue sky above its head, and there was a ferocious bird with giant wings flapping its wings as it flew across the sky. The black silhouettes swarmed towards the immortal palace, as if something fatal was attracting them. When Bei Ming and the rest arrived next to Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell, they were shocked speechless by the scenes before them. Beast-tide, a boundless and shocking beast-tide. Shi Qianhan took a deep breath and said, "Why would a beast-tide erupt here? We have never provoked them." "Very simple." The Patriarch of Hell narrowed his eyes and sneered. These evil beasts are here for fellow Ye's child that is about to be born." At this point, he could not help but click his tongue. Tens of thousands of demons have surrounded the immortal palace, and the beasts are rioting. It looks like fellow Ye's child that is about to be born will definitely be extraordinary in the future. Even ghosts knew to absorb the yang energy of living humans, so the phenomenon of demon beasts eating humans was a common occurrence. Especially when a person that possessed great karmic luck was born, it would even cause all the demon beasts to go berserk. "What do we do now?" someone asked in a deep voice. Facing such a terrifying beast horde, even a soul formation stage cultivator would have to retreat. Moreover, there were likely many soul formation stage demon kings among the beast horde. Yi Chen looked at the beast horde that covered the sky and earth. Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. Subsequently, he soared into the sky and stepped into the air. His voice was like thunder. "Today is the day my second child is born. I don't want to kill. I order all of you to retreat immediately." Rumble. When he said the last word, a mighty sound rang out in the sky. It was as if 100 bolts of lightning were rumbling in the sky at the same time. However, the beast horde was indifferent to his warning. Instead, they sped up and surrounded the immortal palace. "Evil beasts, you're courting death." Yi Chen was furious. His figure suddenly expanded as if he had transformed into a golden giant. He was as tall as the sky and shook the surroundings. Rumble. In the sky, a huge golden foot descended from the sky and stomped on the endless horde of beasts, forcefully crushing a mountain. In an instant, the beast horde within a radius of 3,000 meters was reduced to ashes. However, the beast horde behind him continued to advance fearlessly. "Attack!" The Patriarch of Hell's gaze turned cold as he took the lead to attack. With a wave of his sleeve, a black vortex appeared in the sky. The vortex grew larger and larger, eventually turning into a tornado that connected the sky and earth. Boom! The black tornado pierced the sky and connected the heavens and the earth. It was majestic, and it fell into the endless beast horde like a mountain torrent. At the same time, Hallmaster Northian and the many powerhouses that Yi Chen had released from the immortal palace's prison attacked together. Nearly 30 god transformation stage cultivators attacked together. They activated their divine abilities, and sword gleams shot out, causing the beast horde to scream in pain. At that moment, waves of heart-wrenching pain rang out from the immortal palace. It was Su Yuhan's voice. "Yuhan." Yi Chen's expression changed slightly. Without hesitation, he appeared in the immortal palace's meeting hall. He ignored Yi Hai's obstruction and lifted the curtain to rush into the delivery room. He saw his mother, Wu Lan, and Jiu busy. Su Yuhan, who was lying on the bed, grabbed the edge of the bed tightly. Hot sweat drenched her hair, and her face was extremely pale. On her abdomen, there was a scarlet blood stain the bedsheet. Jiu kept stopping the bleeding and said in a trembling voice, "Young master, Sister Su is having a difficult labor. Shaoqin, Yuhan has lost too much blood. I'm afraid." Wu Lan was panicking at that moment and stammered. Yi Chen's heart sank, and he took a few steps forward immediately. Su Yuhan, whose face was so pale that there was no trace of blood, said in extreme pain when she saw Yi Chen, "Yi Chen, stay with me. Stay with me. I'm in so much pain." "All right, I'll stay with you." Yi Chen held her hand tightly. "Don't talk. Hold on. Believe in yourself." "Yi Chen," Su Yuhan looked at him with strong reluctance and determination. "I might not be able to make it, but I'll insist on giving birth to this child." End of this chapter. Chapter 1372. At the same time, the gray aura emanating from her body was getting stronger and stronger, and Su Yuhan's body was getting weaker and weaker. The gray aura was death aura. When the death aura on a person's body condensed above their head, it would be the day of reincarnation. "Yi Chen, you have to promise me." Su Yuhan forced a smile and looked at him. She smiled sadly. "If I die, you have to take good care of Meng Meng Yi Chen felt a sharp pain in his heart when he heard that. He could not help but hold Su Yuhan's hand tightly and said with a trembling voice, "No, you have to promise me that you'll live. You can't die. Even if heaven wants you to die, I'll take you back." As he finished speaking, a fierce and resolute look appeared in his eyes. Then he hammered his chest with both hands. At that moment, a drop of golden blood shot out from his chest. As soon as the drop of golden blood appeared, a terrifying divine might spread throughout heaven and earth. From afar, it did not look like blood at all. Instead, it looked like a golden divine fire. It was dazzling and caused heaven and earth to dim. Wu Lan and Jiu were stunned by that scene. Under their gazes, Yi Chen's complexion suddenly became extremely dispirited, as if he had aged dozens of years in an instant. Yi Chen's body trembled slightly. Then he forcefully injected the drop of golden blood into Su Yuhan's glabella. It was his last drop of heart blood. Every cultivator had 3 drops of heart blood. It was the foundation of cultivation and vitality. Once the 3 drops were exhausted, it meant that the person was not far from death. Yi Chen also had 3 drops. He gave the first drop to his daughter and the second drop to save Qianshan. However, he still gave 3 drops to Su Yuhan without hesitation. As soon as the heart blood entered Su Yuhan's body, it exploded with terrifying energy like a drop of water falling into a pot of boiling oil. Su Yuhan could not help but grunt. Yi Chen was quick to react. He sealed most of the power of the drop of heart blood and fixed it in Su Yuhan's body. Only 1/10 of its energy turned into a trickle to nourish Su Yuhan's body. At that moment, Su Yuhan gradually regained some color. The death aura on her body weakened significantly, and she stopped bleeding. She closed her eyes slowly as she looked at Yi Chen's dry hair and pale face. Tears rolled down the corner of her eyes. "Why are you so stupid?" Although she had no idea what Yi Chen had given her, she could tell from the changes in Yi Chen's body that it was very important to him. Yi Chen smiled sadly with determination in his eyes. "I've told you that even if God wants you dead, I'll get you back. If the king of hell dares to take you in, I'll kill my way into the 9-tiered netherworld." At the same time, he felt the power in his body depleting at a visible rate. The heart was equivalent to the engine of the human body. All the blood circulation in the human body had to pass through the heart, and the heart blood was born from the heart. It could provide the human body with an endless supply of essence qi, which was equivalent to a natural energy crystal. Wu Lan's heart was filled with sorrow when she saw the changes on Yi Chen. "Xiaochen! Mom, continue delivering Yuhan's baby." Yi Chen gave her a pale smile and inserted the spiritual power in his body into her body at the same time. "Good, good, good." Wu Lan wiped her tears and held back her tears as she called Ju, to deliver Yuhan's baby. After an unknown period of time, Ju-er's excited voice sounded in the room. "Young master, it's out. The head is out. Yuhan, inhale and use force." Wu Lan's eyes were filled with tears. Not long after, a baby's cry rang out in the narrow delivery room. "Wah! It's born! It's born!" Wu Lan hurriedly cut off the umbilical cord and wrapped the baby in swaddling clothes. She looked at Yuhan and Yi Chen with tears of joy. Meanwhile, Yi Hai and the rest in the outside world could not contain their excitement when they heard the baby's cry. "Wah!" Although the baby's cry was neither loud nor soft, it shook the entire immortal palace. It was like the beginning of chaos, and it was clear and loud as it covered the entire Tongtian mountain. The patriarch of hell and the rest, who were fleeing from the beasts, heaved a sigh of relief when they heard the sound. Someone raised his head abruptly and pointed at the sky above the immortal palace. "Patriarch, look, what's that?" Everyone looked over and saw that above the immortal palace there was a golden pillar that pierced through the clouds, piercing through the heavens. The pillar of light that pierced through the heavens came from the delivery room. At that moment, the entire 4 regions of the vast purple world saw the pillar of light from afar. It was like a golden dragon connecting the heavens and the earth. What's that? At this moment, everyone was shocked. Many experts who had lived in seclusion revealed looks of astonishment. The Patriarch of Hell also looked at the pillar of light in shock and muttered, the phenomenon of a golden dragon soaring into the sky. What a monster! What a monster! In the delivery room, the baby's cries became louder and louder. Wu Lan handed the swaddling cloth in her arms to Yi Chen. She was overjoyed. Xiao Chen, Yuhan really gave birth to a chubby boy for you. Yi Chen took it carefully and took a look. What he saw was a wrinkled face. However, the nose and lips were identical to Yi Chen's, and the eyes were like Yuhan's. Especially the feeling of blood being thicker than water. It made his heart skip a beat. It was as if all the blood in his body was boiling. Wu Lan was worried that he would not like it, so she explained subconsciously, Xiao Qin, newborn children are like this. When you were born, you were as black as charcoal. Ju-er almost laughed out loud when she heard that. To her surprise, the little girl stopped crying as soon as Yi Chen carried her in his arms. Instead, she looked at him quietly with her eyes wide open. It was the first time the father and son looked at each other. He's really something. Yi Chen was so excited that he almost screamed. He was grinning from ear to ear as he played with the little girl's mail toy. Blurg, at that moment, a stream of water shot up from the sky and sprayed on his face, as if it was the saying, "A stream falls 3,000 feet straight down." The atmosphere in the room suddenly fell silent. Then it was broken by Ju-er's laughter. "Young master, he's booing you." "Oh my, I'm dying of laughter." Wu Lan could not help but laugh out loud too. Yi Chen wiped his face and looked at the little girl in his arms. He saw the little girl giggling. "Brat, I'll remember this," Yi Chen said with a grim face. Yi Chen said with a grim expression. He carried the little girl to the bed immediately and said to Su Yuhan, who looked weak, "Look, Yuhan, this is our son." Before he could finish, the little girl in his arms reached out her hand with a trembling hand, as if she wanted to shake Su Yuhan's hand. A loving smile appeared on Su Yuhan's face. She reached out her hand to shake it, but she fainted in the next moment. End of this chapter. Chapter 1373. Wu Lan and Jiu-er went up to her immediately. They lifted their eyes to look at Yi Chen after seeing that she was still breathing. "Xiao Chen, is Yuhan all right?" Yi Chen placed his hand on Su Yuhan's wrist. His expression changed a few times before he said in a deep voice, "She's fine." Although that was what he said, his heart was getting heavier and heavier. Half a year. Su Yuhan only had half a year left to live. She originally had a year of lifespan, but after giving birth, she lost a lot of vitality and completely damaged her foundation. Even with his drop of heart blood, it was useless because one's lifespan could not be controlled. Once one's lifespan was up, even if one was alive and kicking 1 second ago, one would not be able to escape death in the next. It seemed like he had to think of a way to increase Yuhan's cultivation base. Yi Chen's heart was heavy. The longevity pill was useless to Su Yuhan. Only by letting her step into God transformation within half a year could she live another 1,000 years. "That's great." Wu Lan heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She then said earnestly, "Xiao Chen, don't think that I'm naggy. You've seen how difficult it is for a woman to give birth. You must treat Yuhan well in the future." "Got it, Mom." Yi Chen took a deep breath in and said, "Mom, Jiu-er, you guys must be tired. Go and rest. I want to accompany Yuhan." Wu Lan nodded and left with Jiu-er. At that moment, only Yi Chen, who was carrying the child, and Su Yuhan, who had fallen asleep, were left in the room. Yi Chen felt a sharp pain in his heart for no reason as he looked at Su Yuhan's beautiful face. He then freed a hand to caress her face and mumbled, "Don't worry, Yuhan. I won't let you die. If heaven wants you dead, I'll destroy heaven." He was like a fool as he said many things to Su Yuhan. Surprisingly, the little girl in his arms did not make a fuss. After some time, Su Yuhan woke up from her coma. After hugging the child first, she looked at Yi Chen's slightly old face. Silly, was it worth it? Of course it was. Yi Chen placed her hand on his face and said, while smiling lightly, 3,000 years of suffering is all because you're the obsession in my heart. Without you guys, what's the point of me, Yi Chen, being immortal and indestructible? She suddenly said softly, Yi Chen, let's go back to Earth. Let's go home. I want to take a look. Although Yi Chen did not mention it, she knew about her body's condition. She was worried that she would pass away before she could reminisce about the past. All right, Yi Chen smiled lightly. I'll bring you back tomorrow. Su Yuhan revealed a satisfied smile and fell asleep in a daze. Her beautiful face was heart-wrenching. After Yi Chen combed her body with spiritual power, he carried the child and walked out. Congratulations, fellow Taoist Yi. Both mother and child are safe. The Patriarch of Hell was the first to welcome him. As if he was performing a magic trick, a blood-colored ruby appeared in his hand. This is the phoenix blood ruby that I obtained previously. It's a gift for this little guy. It can nourish his body. Yi Wushuang followed closely behind and said with a smile, Congratulations, brother. Is sister-in-law, right? Sure, Qian Han, Hall, Master Beiyin, and the rest also congratulated him. At the same time, they offered their sincerity. Not long after, there were all sorts of dazzling magic treasures hanging around the little guy's neck and hands. Even the red doo-doo was a spirit treasure. It could avoid water and fire, and it was invulnerable. What they did not see was that in the corner, a 6-year-old kid was watching this scene silently. He bit his lips and looked aggrieved. After Yi Chen responded to everyone with a smile, Yi Hai walked up to him excitedly. Xiaochen, let me see my grandson. Subsequently, he took the child from Yi Chen's embrace and grinned from ear to ear. The Yi family has a descendant. The Yi family has a descendant. The Yi family was a traditional family. Even though Yi Hai did not value sons over daughters and liked his eldest granddaughter very much, the older generation still hoped that they could have a son to inherit their surname and bloodline. Wah! As soon as he hugged him, the obedient little girl immediately burst into tears, scaring Yi Hai so much that he broke out in cold sweat. Dad, let me do it. Yi Chen hugged him while smiling. The little girl was still crying. Everyone stared at each other and said, Could it be that it's hungry? That's possible. Yi Chen nodded and was subsequently troubled. But what should I feed it with? Su Yuhan has just given birth, and her body is weak. Just when everyone was helpless, the Patriarch of Hell chuckled. I have an idea. After saying that, he disappeared from where he was. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he appeared again, but there were 2 colorful female deer in his hands. These were 2 golden core stage female deer. As soon as the 2 female deer appeared, they immediately tried to escape in a panic. However, they were shocked by the Patriarch of Hell's aura. You 2 little fellows, I know that you can understand me. He pointed at the little girl in Yi Chen's embrace after saying that and said, This little cub doesn't have any milk to drink. You guys have to work hard. I'll give you a chance to transform later. The 2 female deer were unwilling at first, but after hearing the Patriarch's last sentence, they nodded with great interest. Immediately took the bowl and squeezed it in front of everyone, causing the 2 female deer to cover their eyes in embarrassment. Yi Chen took the bowl of deer milk and scooped a spoonful of it to the little girl gently. Open your mouth and drink. The little fellow immediately stopped crying. He opened his mouth and drank mouthful after mouthful. He drank 3 full bowls of the soup. When the Patriarch of Hell saw this, he flicked his finger and 2 transformation pills shot at the 2 female deer. I'll keep my promise. These are transformation pills. They can help you transform. Unexpectedly, the 2 female deer shook their heads and refused. Then they knelt before the Patriarch of Hell and Yi Chen. A crisp voice that sounded like an aureole was heard. Master, we don't want the transformation pills. We just want to follow you. The Patriarch of Hell was a little surprised. Subsequently, he could not help but look at Yi Chen and say with a smile, "These two little fellows are smart. They know that the transformation pills can only allow them to transform, but they can't go further." Yi Chen pondered for a moment and said with a nod, "Sure, but you guys need to feed my son in the future." "Thank you, master." The two female deer were overjoyed when they heard that. After he was done, Yi Chen handed the child to his mother, Wulan. He then thought of something and could not help but size up the crowd. "Where's Meng Meng?" As soon as he said that, everyone looked around. Yi Hai was confused. "I saw this girl just now. How did she disappear in the blink of an eye?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1375. The Star Pavilion's founding ceremony was held simply. Yi Chen preached in front of everyone at the ceremony. He even told them about the many strange things that he knew about the cultivation world. Even so, it still shocked the entire firmament purple world. Many god transformation stage powerhouses who were initially unconvinced were even more shocked after hearing it. Subsequently, they were convinced by Yi Chen. It was Yi Chen who let them know that the firmament purple world was just a drop in the ocean in the vast world. There were 9 heavens and 10 lands above the firmament purple world. It was also Yi Chen who let them know that there were supreme realms such as void refinement, soul splitting, integration, and tribulation transcendence above the God transformation stage. When a person's knowledge skyrocketed, his mentality would undergo a tremendous change. His vision would no longer be limited to a river or a river. The Tongtian Mountain was also renamed the Star Mountain. From then on, everyone in the firmament purple world knew that from now on, the Immortal Palace would be replaced by the Star Pavilion. The Star Pavilion had completely become the overlord of the firmament purple world. On the 3rd of April, in year 36,584 of the firmament purple calendar, a giant teleportation formation erupted with terrifying power on Star Mountain. The formation originally belonged to the Immortal Palace and could lead to the ancient desolate realm. Now, it was strengthened by Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell. At that moment, Yi Chen held Su Yuhan's hand outside the teleportation formation. He looked at the black silhouettes before him quietly. They were all the upper echelons of the Star Pavilion. "Heavenly Lord Yi, are you really leaving?" Qin Song of the Kangwu Qin family, who is now the pavilion master of the Star Pavilion, looked at Yi Chen reluctantly. His eyes were filled with gratitude. The Kangwu Qin family was only a third-rate cultivation family in the Luoxia region, and his cultivation base had only just stepped into Golden Core. However, Yi Chen made him the leader of the Star Pavilion, the #1 overlord of the firmament purple world. Such an honor made him feel like he was in a dream. Think about it, a Golden Core stage cultivator leading a group of soul formation stage elders. If it was anyone else, they would also tremble with fear. All good things must come to an end. Yi Chen nodded lightly and glanced at Su Yuhan next to him. He said with a gentle expression, "Moreover, I just want to live a peaceful life with my wife now." Su Yuhan looked at him tenderly too. Seeing that Yi Chen had made up his mind to leave, Qin Song could not help but bow to Yi Chen hard. "No matter what, you're the real master of the Star Pavilion to me. If you need our help in the future, I'll definitely follow you with my life. We might meet again one day." Yi Chen said with a faint smile, "Therefore, I'll have to trouble you to take care of the family business for me. Cultivate the cultivation method that I've taught you. If you don't understand anything, you can ask the other God transformation stage elders." He originally wanted the North Sea Hall Masters group to take the position of Star Pavilion Master, but they rejected it without hesitation. After the upheaval in the ancient barren world, most of their heritage was destroyed. They only wanted to rebuild their heritage to be worthy of their ancestors. Let's go. Eventually, Yi Chen took another look at the firmament purple world. Subsequently, he held Su Yuhan's hand and brought the Patriarch of Hell and the rest into the teleportation formation. At that moment, the huge teleportation formation erupted with a dazzling light. Then, A terrifying teleportation power erupted. Qin Tsang watched Yi Qin and the rest disappear into the teleportation formation in a daze. Subsequently, he bowed deeply to that direction. Heaven Lord Yi, have a safe journey. Behind him, all the members of the Qin family knelt on one knee. They were silent because they knew that Yi Chen had made them who they were today. In the ancient barren world, on a desolate island in Middle State, dozens of figures descended as light surged into the sky. As soon as he landed, Yi Chen staggered and groaned. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His face turned paler. Su Yuhan held his hand tightly. There was a heartache between her brows. Yi Chen, are you all right? I'm fine. Yi Chen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and gave her a comforting smile. However, his complexion did not improve. Instead, it was getting worse. Big brother. Yi Wushuang went forward to support him. Everyone had noticed this change in him a long time ago, and besides feeling sorrowful in their hearts, they felt even more pity. The Patriarch of Hell sighed softly to himself. He's exhausted the only 3 drops of heart blood. If it were anyone else, they would have died long ago. It's already not easy for fellow Yi to hold on until now. Yi Chen glanced at everyone. His gaze paused on Hall, Master Baiyun, and the rest. Guys, do you want to return to your respective sect ruins to take a look? Before this, he had already told them that he came from Earth. While everyone was shocked, they expressed their willingness to follow Yi Chen to Earth. Then, I'll have to trouble you to wait for a moment, Heaven Lord Yi. The Emperor of Great Xia, Emperor Hua, took a step forward and cupped his fists at him. Then he turned into a long rainbow and flew into the sky. Hall, Master Baiyun, and the other powerhouses from the ancient barren world were no exception. They all rushed towards the ruins of their respective sections. After all, they did not know when they would return from Earth. It was necessary to inform their descendants before they left. Su Yuhan looked around quietly and said softly, Yi Chen, did you descend from Earth to this place and then go to the purple world to find me? That's right. Yi Chen nodded while chuckling. Can you take me to see it? Su Yuhan gritted her teeth and looked at him with anticipation. I want to know how much you suffered to find me. Yi Chen wanted to reject her, but he could not stand her beautiful gaze. In the end, he gave Yi Wushuang a look and held Su Yuhan's hand. He flew into the sky on a sword gleam. After he left, the Patriarch of Hell said, Wait for me here. I'll be back soon after I settle some personal matters. Yi Wushuang nodded and stayed where he was to protect Yi Hai and his wife. Yi Chen took out the true martial 1000 lightning sword and flew on his sword. He brought Su Yuhan around the Tianfeng Sea area. He patiently explained his experiences to her every time he passed by. His complexion was getting worse and worse. Tianfeng Sea area, King Mu Fort. King Mu lay on the ground, drunk. His hair was disheveled, and his gaze was unfocused as he stared at the 2 paintings in front of him. The people in the 2 paintings were both women with extraordinary temperaments. One of them was a portrait of Mu Kaiwei. Kaiwei! King Mu took a sip of wine and looked at Mu Tsaiwei's portrait quietly. His voice trembled as he said, You shouldn't have saved that person back then. I shouldn't have helped you guys. I don't hate him. I only hate myself. Otherwise, you wouldn't have died. The current King Mu fort was extremely desolate. It was so desolate that there was not even a single servant to serve King Mu. King Mu was like a drunkard. He drank until he was drunk every day, looking at the paintings alone and muttering to himself. What he did not know was that there was a young man and woman looking at him silently outside the King Mu fort. The young man had an extremely complicated expression. The young man was Yi Chen. Su Yuhan, who was next to him, held his hand tightly and said softly, Yi Chen, is this the father of Ms. Mu that you told me about? Along the way, Yi Chen had already told her everything about how he and Mu Kaiwei got to know each other and how they fell out. Yi Chen nodded lightly. Su Yuhan bit her lip and could not help but say, As a woman, I can feel that Ms. Mu has really fallen in love with you." At this point, she could not help but sigh faintly. Even though Ms. Mu did what she did later on. She did it for you. It's all in the past. Yi Chen was unwilling to talk about it. No. Su Yuhan shook her head lightly and said, "Yi Chen, I'm not a jealous woman. Bring me to Ms. Mu's grave. I want to see her." In the mountain behind the King Mu fort, there were 2 tombstones with many offerings on them. It was likely that King Mu often came here to pay his respects. One of them seemed to have just been repaired. There was a grave wrapped in tender green grass, and the words Mu Tsaiwei's grave were written on it. Su Yuhan walked over and squatted down. She gently pulled the grass that was blocking the tombstone with her hand and muttered to herself as she looked at the tombstone. At that moment, divine fire erupted from Yi Chen's eyes. He saw through the coffin deep underground. Apart from a few women's clothes, there was nothing else. King Mu must have built a cenotaph for Mu Kaiwei. "Ms. Mu, are you dead or alive?" Yi Chen had a complicated expression as he mumbled to himself. Before this, he knew that Mu Tsaiwei's grave had exploded and her body was gone. Yi Dongli did not mention it to him before he died, so even he did not know about it. "Yuhan, let's go." Yi Chen took a deep breath in and walked over. He held Su Yuhan's hand and left on the sword gleam. Meanwhile, King Mu, who was drinking the wine in the pot in the house, realized that the taste was different. It was as if there was a trickle nourishing his body. However, King Mu, who was filled with sorrow, did not care at all. He was still drunk, like a drunkard, living in sorrow. Ancient, desolate realm, middle ground, Daluo dynasty. Dongzhong village had been renamed Dongzhong City. It was no longer a village with a population of less than 500, but a giant city with hundreds of thousands of people. Yi Chen walked leisurely on the bustling streets while holding Su Yuhan's hand. Their extraordinary temperament attracted many passers-by's attention. When they passed by a stall, Su Yuhan suddenly stopped and pointed at a wooden hairpin on the stall. "Yi Chen, I want this." Yi Chen stopped and looked over. The stall owner was an honest man. He could not help but walk up to them when he saw that. "May I know which hairpin you're interested in?" Yi Chen picked up the wooden hairpin that Su Yuhan wanted and said while smiling, "How much is this?" The stall owner was stunned. He did not expect the 2 luxuriously dressed people in front of him to ignore the golden hairpin and ask for a wooden hairpin instead. However, he still smiled and said, "It only costs 10 copper coins. However, I can tell that the 2 of you have a special relationship, so I won't charge you. Consider it a gift from me." Su Yuhan smiled playfully and pointed at her white hair. She said shyly like a girl, "Yi Chen, put it on for me." "All right." Yi Chen smiled and inserted the wooden hairpin into her hair carefully. However, his heart was heavy as he looked at Su Yuhan's white hair. "Yi Chen, do I look good?" Su Yuhan looked at him nervously. End of this chapter. Chapter 1376. You look good with anything. Yi Chen looked at her gently. The eyes of the stall owner next to him lit up. "Little brother, you're right. Even if it's just a wooden hairpin, it'll look extremely exquisite on your head." Su Yuhan revealed a happy expression when she heard that. "Let's go," Yi Chen smiled. Just when he was about to leave while holding her hand, he suddenly saw a commotion at the end of the road. The black mass of people immediately spread out on both sides of the street, creating an extremely spacious path. Then an extremely mighty group of people walked over. There were less than 100 people, but their bodies were filled with monstrous, murderous aura. The most surprising thing was that they were all women. Behind them, there was a sedan chair being protected. "It's Princess Zhang's wedding team." The stall owner next to Yi Chen seemed to have recognized something. He said to Yi Chen immediately, "Little brother, move aside." "Princess Zhang?" Yi Chen was surprised. However, his gaze did not move away from the sedan chair because he could sense the aura of an old friend from it. The stall owner could not help but explain, "Little brother, you're an outsider, so you don't know that Dongzhong City used to be called Dongzhong Village. It's said that there was an immortal there, and the current Dongzhong city's Princess Zhang is that immortal's disciple. Then who is she marrying? Yi Chen said, while smiling. The stall owner said, I heard that it's a young prince from the capital's royal family. However, I heard that this young prince married into our Dongzhong city. He did not believe this rumor. After all, in the eyes of poor people like them, the descendants of the royal family were the descendants of the heavens. How could they lower themselves to marry into a small city? Little brother, you'd better move aside. The stall owner said kindly. Although Princess Zhang has a gentle personality, the female guards under her aren't to be trifled with. However, Yi Chen did not move at all. He looked at the sedan chair that was being escorted by the crowd, quietly. A smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Is this girl finally married? Nay, seeing that the road was blocked, the female commander at the front immediately pulled the reins and shouted at Yi Chen, Who's there? Today is the day the princess is getting married. Get out of the way. At that moment, everyone on both sides of the street looked at Yi Chen. They were pointing at him and discussing. Even the previous stall owner retreated far away. Have you reached the foundation establishment stage? You're pretty hardworking. Yi Chen did not move in the face of her reprimand. There was relief in his eyes as he disappeared into thin air with Su Yuhan. Seeing two living people suddenly disappear, everyone was shocked. The stall owner's mouth was wide open. An immortal! The stall owner only reacted after a long time. His throat moved a few times, and then he bowed his head. Immortal, I never thought that Guai would be able to see an immortal in this lifetime. Immortal even bought something for me. At this point, he suddenly felt a heavy weight in his pocket. He subconsciously took a look, and what he saw almost made him faint. Spirit stones, there were more than a dozen spirit stones. Not only him, but all the female soldiers who were opening the path were also stunned and could not react for a moment. At that moment, a loud voice came from the sedan chair. Sister Lan, what happened? The female commander called Sister Lan immediately snapped back to her senses. She got off her horse and walked to the sedan chair, stammering as she explained what had happened. Before she could finish, a woman in a wedding dress shot out from the sedan chair. The woman's eyes trembled as she looked around. Is that you? At that moment, all the female soldiers who were protecting her revealed expressions of disbelief. They had never seen their princess lose her composure like that. Since you're here, why didn't you see me? The woman in the wedding dress ignored everyone's gazes. She seemed to be crying and excited, but most of all, she seemed to be lost. In the Daluo dynasty, Yi Chen and Su Yuhan stood side by side on an official road 1,000 kilometers away from Dongzhong City. Su Yuhan looked at Yi Chen with a forced smile. The lady in the sedan chair earlier should be the blacksmith's daughter who saved you, right? You even got married to her. Yi Chen bit the bullet and nodded. Su Yuhan smiled slyly. Now that you've seen her getting married, have you ever regretted it? If I were you, it's not too late to chase after her now. How could Yi Chen not know that she was teasing him? He could not help but force a smile. Stop teasing me. Sure. Su Yuhan clearly did not plan to let him go. She gritted her teeth and said, Now, bring me to your third lover, and I'll let you go, ancient desolate realm, northern region. The great dynasty had already unified the vast northern region. All the officials and the people of the country worshipped the empress as a god. However, at that moment, the palace of the great dynasty was filled with gloom. All the ministers were kneeling outside the empress's bedroom with sorrow in their eyes. The empress of the great dynasty was suffering from a serious illness. She had been unconscious for 3 consecutive days and had not eaten or drunk anything. Countless people were praying for the empress silently. Meanwhile, a cold lady in a dragon robe was lying on the dragon bed in the bedroom at that moment. The lady's face was skinny and her eyes were sunken. Your Majesty, the imperial astronomer has built an altar and is praying to the heavens for you. A palace maid was holding a bowl of ginseng soup. She knelt on the ground and said in a trembling voice while crying, "Please eat some. Please take care of your body. I can't live any more." Yun-I, who was lying on the dragon bed, spoke with all her might. She looked at the people kneeling below with her sickly eyes and said weakly, "Chen Tao, get the minister here. I have something to tell him." The palace maid named Chen Tao's eyes were sore. She held back her tears and walked out quickly. Soon she brought an old man in luxurious clothes with white hair in a short while. The old man knelt hard despite his old age. "I, the minister of the Ministry of Rights, Su Chongling, greet your majesty. May the heavens bless your majesty's health and longevity." Minister Su Yun, he said in a trembling voice, "Write a will for me. I don't have any children. After I die, the throne will be passed on to the daughter of the former king of Langya, Lu Fei, the great general of the army. At the same time, order the Imperial Army to use force to seal off the Imperial City and cooperate with General Lu's ascension. If there are any objections, kill." "Your Majesty." The old man kowtowed to the ground, extremely sorrowful. "Do you want to defy the decree?" Hearing this, the old man could only slowly stand up and accept the decree from the side. His hands trembling, he wrote quickly. Yun-I looked at the palace with lifeless eyes. She wasn't afraid of death, and she didn't have many regrets. The only regret was that after that person left, she never saw him again, and there was no news of him at all. And now that she was about to die, she could only bury these feelings that were hidden in the depths of her heart. Just as the old man was about to stamp the jade seal, there was suddenly the sound of hurried footsteps coming from outside. "Your Majesty, great news, great news!" The person who came was the commander of the Imperial Army. He knelt heavily on the ground and held something with both hands. "A wandering Taoist asked me to give this to your Majesty. He said that it can save your Majesty." When he looked again, the thing in his hand was a sachet. The word "I" was engraved on the sachet with golden lines. Yun-I, who was originally on the verge of death, stood up in shock. She stared at the sachet and her body trembled violently. "Where is he?" "After that person handed this to me, he left on a cloud." The commander of the Imperial Army said respectfully, "Looks like he doesn't want to see me." Yun-I smiled bitterly and sat down heavily. She sighed faintly. "Forget it. As long as I know that he's fine, I'm satisfied." On that day, there was good news from the great dynasty. Her Majesty had recovered. Not only that, she even went to the court to deal with national affairs in high spirits. As for Her Majesty's sudden recovery, there were countless secrets among the people. Only a few people in the palace that day knew the truth. In the great dynasty's capital, Su Yuhan held Yi Chen's hand. She looked rather pale. "Yi Chen, I'm tired. Let's go back." "All right, we'll register our marriage when we return to Earth. I'll give you a grand wedding." Yi Chen smiled lightly and took a step forward while holding her hand. He teleported and disappeared from the Imperial City instantly. He was really in love with this woman. She did not mind the existence of the three women. Instead, she urged him to come and take a look. Clearly, she wanted to fulfill his Tao heart. At the same time, in the ruins of a Huang kingdom in the eastern wilderness, the Patriarch of Hell stood facing a tombstone for a long time. On the tombstone were the words "Tomb of Empress Jianglei of a Huang kingdom." "The Patriarch is leaving." The Patriarch of Hell had a complicated expression as he muttered, "The Patriarch has always been a playboy and unrestrained, but you died for me. Don't worry. When the Patriarch returns to the cultivation world, he will start looking for your reincarnation. When the time comes, the Patriarch will personally help you unlock the memories of your reincarnation and bring you onto the path of cultivation. You will have a place in my harem." After saying that, he left quietly. On a barren island in the Tianfeng Sea area, Yi Chen descended from the sky with Su Yuhan and landed before everyone. He lifted his head and looked at them. He could not help but say in surprise, "Where's the Patriarch?" Hall Master North Yun and the rest had returned. but the patriarch was not around. Yi Wushuang said, "The patriarch said he had to do something private." Before he could finish speaking, the void in front of everyone suddenly distorted, and then the patriarch of Yellow Spring slowly walked out. If one took a closer look, they would realize that he looked a little lonely. Yi Chen walked over and patted his shoulder. Then he took a deep breath in. "Let's go. It's time to return to Earth." With that, he waved his sleeve, and a huge star-like wheel appeared in the air. It was the star fixing plate. As soon as the star fixing plate rose into the air, it grew to 3,000 meters in size. Countless starlight surged on it, and it was extremely vast. "Let's go," Yi Chen ordered, and took the lead to step onto the star-fixing compass while holding Su Yuhan's hand. Meanwhile, dozens of figures followed behind him. End of this chapter. Chapter 1377. In the desolate universe, in the dim, starry sky, there was not a trace of human habitation. There was a planet that was specially taken care of by the sun. As far as the eye could see, the ground seemed to be the product of the eruption of magma. It was reddish-brown, cold, desolate, distant, and deathly silent. Numerous protruding boulders from the ground seemed like numerous, desolate tombstones. As a shocking storm descended, like a comet falling from the sky, dozens of figures finally appeared. Where are we? Dozens of figures had just stabilized their footsteps when they immediately raised their eyes and observed their surroundings. However, the desolate scene that entered their eyes caused many people to be at a loss. The group was none other than Yi Chen and the rest. Yi Chen put away the star-fixing compass and spread out his divine consciousness. He could sense everything within 1,000 miles around him. Su Yuhan grabbed his hand tightly and looked around while clenching her teeth. "Yi Chen, where are we?" "Mars." Yi Chen said slowly, "We've landed on Mars. In ancient times, Mars was called Mars. I think the time-fixing compass left behind by Yi Dongli was wrong and brought us here. This is Mars?" Yi Hai and Wu Lan were completely dumbfounded. They did know about Mars, but they only knew about it from television. At their age, there were many things waiting to be done in China, and they were vigorously developing the people's livelihood. The first country to land on Mars was the former Soviet Union's Mars 1. However, Mars 1 was lost later on. After that, the United States and Korea began to launch space exploration, sending out probes and satellites one after another. Who would have thought that they would actually descend on Mars from this place that was once so far away from them? Then what should we do? Su Yuhan looked at the blue planet deep in the universe and said nervously, "You must know that Mars is over 50 million kilometers away from Earth. That doesn't matter." Yi Chen said, while smiling, "Our flying speed is more than 1,000 times faster than a rocket. At most, we'll reach Earth in a little more time." At this point, he seemed to remember something. "It's just that we've used up a lot of spiritual energy on our way here from the ancient barren world. Why don't we recover first?" "All right." Everyone nodded and took out their spirit stones to recover. The distance between the ancient barren world and Mars was more than 40 million kilometers. There were also spatial cracks along the way. Everyone's spiritual energy was almost depleted. At that moment, Meng Meng, who was in Wu Lan's arms, struggled down and ran toward Yi Chen. "Daddy, I want to see Mars." "All right." Yi Chen smiled and picked her up immediately. Then he held her hand and walked into the distance. Along the way, he explained all sorts of knowledge about Mars to the little girl. After the Patriarch of Hell and the rest recovered their spiritual energy, they followed closely behind Yi Chen with Yi Hai and Wu Lan. At this moment, someone exclaimed and pointed into the distance. "Look! What's that?" Everyone immediately looked in the direction of the sound and saw that there was a huge wreckage in the depression in front of them. At this moment, it had already been corroded. "It's a warship." The Patriarch of Hell took the lead and walked over to take a look. He could not help but turn to look at Yi Chen. "Fellow Yi, it's a crashed space battleship." The battleship was huge, and its hull was polished with special materials. It had countless large firing ports, and there was even an energy cabin at the bottom of the battleship. However, there was no one inside. Yi Chen fixed his gaze on the red and white flag on the hull. He could not help but say, "It's a U.S. warship. It's indeed a U.S. warship. Could it be that the U.S. warship crashed here? It doesn't seem like it." Yi Chen shook his head and said, "The U.S.'s technology has always been leading the world. It's unlikely that it would crash. Moreover, even if it crashed, what about the people in the cabin?" The Patriarch of Hell immediately reacted and quickened his pace to continue investigating. Soon he found another spaceship. There was a Chinese flag engraved on the spaceship. A spaceship from China. Yi Chen squinted slightly. He saw that the spaceship was exactly the same as the previous battleship. It was severely damaged, and there was not a single person in the cabin. The only difference was that there were many runes engraved on the spaceship. However, the runes had long collapsed. Continue searching. For some reason, Yi Chen suddenly had a bad feeling. The North Sea Temple Master and the rest immediately spread out and searched the surface of Mars. They discovered spaceships and battleships from many countries, but they were all broken and disintegrated. What's going on? Could it be that the countries in the world are fighting for supremacy over Mars? Yi Chen was getting more and more uneasy. At that moment, Shi Qianhan's sorrowful voice came from afar. "Brother Yi, look here!" In front of him stood a huge tombstone. On the tombstone were densely engraved names and words. There are Chinese, English, Korean. The space has changed drastically and the enemies from outer space have arrived. The fate of humans on Earth is in danger. The countries of the world have formed an alliance to fight against the enemies from outer space. However, the technology that we are proud of cannot withstand the flying swords, talismans, and spells of the enemies from outer space. Yi Chen looked at the words quietly. His heart was heavy because the people buried here were countless elites from all over the world. There were more than 3,000 people. Shi Qianhan took a deep breath in and looked at him. "Brother Yi, looks like the enemies from outer space have finally arrived while we were away." Yi Hai and Wu Lan felt as if a huge rock was hanging in their hearts. "I wonder how Yi Wen and the rest are doing and how our motherland is doing." Right at that moment, the Patriarch of Green Spirit and the rest sent a voice transmission talisman. "Heavenly Lord Yi, there are many tombstones here." Everyone hurriedly looked over and saw. Tombstones. They were desolate, tragic, dead, and bleak. Yi Chen took a deep breath in and walked to a tombstone. He lowered his head and looked at the inscription on it. "I'm Taoist Lei Yang, the sect master of the Tao sect of Shang Santian in China. I've joined hands with many fellow Taoists from Shang Santian to intercept the foreign lands. However, the enemies from outer space are coming aggressively. We can only serve our country with our broken bodies." The sect master of the Kunlun Ruins Devil Sect, Ing Feng, killed 5 early-stage nascent soul cultivators, 2 mid-stage nascent soul cultivators, and 1 late-stage nascent soul cultivator. In the end, he self-destructed and severely injured a perfected nascent soul cultivator. The sect master of the Kunlun Ruins Ghoul Sect, Baliming, led the powerhouses of the Ghoul Sect and fought here for 3 days and 3 nights. All of them died in battle, and not even their corpses were left. The sect master of the Star Sect, Xing Yuanzi, sacrificed the Star Sect and cast a heaven-defying spell. He summoned a meteor to kill a perfected nascent soul cultivator here. The sect master of the Spirit Talisman Sect, Essence Talisman. Everyone fell silent as they looked at the epitaphs on the tombstones. The atmosphere in the surroundings suddenly became extremely oppressive. Endless sorrow emanated from Yi Chen's body. He knew all the names on the tombstones. These people had once been his enemies, but in the face of Earth's crisis, they were still fearless and chose to die for a just cause. This was the shared destiny of mankind. This was a Chinese martial artist who dared to fight and die. Sure, Qianhan's face was extremely pale, and his entire body was trembling. Even though he had not experienced the tragic battle back then, he could still feel it through the tombstones. When Yi Chen's gaze stopped on the last tombstone, he could not help but close his eyes. Tears welled up in his eyes. Yi Wushuang knelt heavily in front of the tombstone, almost choking with sobs. It was the peak master of the Kunlun Ruins' 9th peak, Elder Qingxian. I'm the peak master of the Kunlun Ruins' 9th peak, Qingxian. In the winter of 2019 AD, the foreign enemies invaded, and China was the first to bear the brunt. In order to kill the enemy's soul formation powerhouses, I used myself as bait to buy time for China's god-shooting cannon. I carved this tombstone before I died. If the future generations of China see it, I hope they won't let us down. Blurg! Yi Chen's lips moved slightly, and he spat a mouthful of blood in the end. Dead. All the upper echelons of Shang Santian had died in battle. Even Elder Qingxian, who had helped him before, was dead. Elder Qingxian! Yi Wushuang was extremely sorrowful. He would never forget that when he was alone in the Kunlun Ruin sword sect, it was Elder Qingxian who took him in. He could not forget that when he became the sword sect's enemy, it was Elder Qingxian who protected him regardless of his life. Su Yuhan held Yi Chen's hand tightly and said with a sad expression, "Yi Chen, I'm sorry. I'm fine." Yi Chen took a deep breath in and bowed solemnly to the tombstones before him while trembling. "Everyone have a safe journey. I swear that if I don't slaughter all the people from the outer realm, I'm not a human." That killing intent caused the sky to change color. Yi Wushuang, Shi Qianhan, the Patriarch of Hell, and the rest bowed. Even the Patriarch of Green Spirit and the rest were no exception. Yi Chen stood up and walked over slowly. He put all the tombstones into his sleeve with trembling hands and muttered, "Everyone, I'll bring you home today. You're heroes, and your souls shouldn't have left you." At that moment, the sound of air being torn apart could be heard from afar. The Patriarch of Hell could not help but say, "Someone's here." Huang Fan, that's the place where the natives of the celestial burial planet died that I told you about before. The lowly natives of the celestial burial planet overestimate themselves. How dare they stop us from descending to the celestial burial planet? I'm going to pee on their tombstones in front of everyone. 2 cold laughs were heard. Yi Chen's expression was terrifyingly calm. Soon, 2 rays of light shot over and revealed 2 young men. The 2 of them were dressed strangely. They were different from Yi Chen and the rest. However, there was ruthlessness and cruelty between their brows. Both of them were at Golden Core. Someone got here before us? The 2 of them were shocked when they saw Yi Chen. One of the burly young men could not help but step forward and say, "I'm Huang Fan, a disciple of the Violet Planet's Huang family. May I know where you're from?" However, what caused his expression to change was that none of them spoke. They were all staring at him coldly, and their gazes were terrifying. "Oh no, they're from the celestial burial planet." Huang Fan seemed to have sensed something, and his expression suddenly changed. Then, he rode on the sword Gleam and tried to escape. "I want him alive." Yi Chen turned around slowly. There was no emotion in his voice. End of this chapter. Chapter 1378. How could the 2 Golden Core cultivators escape from Yi Chen and the rest? They were captured almost effortlessly. Yi Chen's expression was extremely cold after searching their souls. It turned out that a month after he went to the ancient desolate realm, Earth's space barrier had collapsed, completely exposing Earth to the universe. Then it triggered the invasion of the foreign enemies. The foreign enemies were beyond Yi Chen's previous understanding. There were 8 galaxies descending from the starry sky, and countless starry sky sects were attacking Earth together. The 2 people whose souls were searched came from the Violet Planet. On that day, Earth fell into unprecedented panic. When someone woke up, he realized that the entire world had changed drastically. The starry sky sects, the return of the Mayan civilization, the arrival of the 100 races, and the aliens on that day. Many small countries in the West used all their strength, but they could not resist the vanguard of the foreign enemies. They were destroyed on the spot. Only China, the United States, and other large countries survived. It was also on that day that the entire world sounded the alarm. Various countries abandoned their former enmity and formed a community with a shared future for mankind. They used all their resources and sent countless technological forces to intercept in space. As for the cultivators on Earth, be it from the east or the west, there were many who dared to fight and die. They headed to Mars, the Moon, and other nearby galaxies to face the foreign enemies without hesitation. The battle was extremely tragic and unprecedented. There were cosmic beasts that opened their bloody mouths and swallowed nuclear bombs. There were foreign powerhouses that split battleships with their swords. There were aliens that transformed into the upper echelons of various countries to disrupt the battle. At that moment, the world had no choice but to admit that the nuclear weapons and other scientific and technological powers that they were proud of were too insignificant in front of the foreign enemies. In the end, the foreign enemies successfully descended on Earth. There was no more information in the minds of the two golden core cultivators. It was probably their first time coming here from their mother planet due to their low status. When Yi Chen told everyone everything he knew, the world suddenly cooled down. There was a gloomy atmosphere. Endless sorrow covered the sky. Whether it was Su Yuhan, Yi Hai, Shi Qianhan, or the other Earthlings, their hearts were extremely heavy. Earth was their home planet. There was their country and their loved ones there. The Patriarch of Hell sighed softly and looked at Yi Chen with a serious expression. "Fellow Yi, have you ever thought about why these foreign enemies are invading Earth at all costs?" His words immediately reminded everyone of this. The Patriarch is right. Shi Qianhan took a deep breath and smiled bitterly. From what we know so far, these enemies are only stronger than the Purple World. Earth isn't even as strong as the ancient barren world. Why would they pay such a price to invade Earth? It's not that I haven't thought about it. Yi Chen said, seriously, this question has appeared in my mind more than once. However, I suspect that it has something to do with the ancient name of Earth. Celestial Burial Star? Shi Qianhan seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed slightly. He could not help but ask, could it be that Earth really buried immortals in the past? Everyone's spirits were shaken when they heard this. Immortals, these two words were too distant and ethereal for everyone. If immortals were really buried on Earth, it would subvert everyone's understanding. That's just a guess. Yi Chen nodded lightly. He could not help but look at the little girl Qian next to him. At that moment, she was staring at everything around her in a daze. Her thin body could not stop trembling. Qian, what's wrong? A gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. He then walked over quickly and tapped between her brows with his finger. Big brother, I don't know either. Qian bit her lip as tears streamed down her face. I suddenly feel so sad that I want to cry. Child, are you scared? Wu Lan hurriedly picked her up and took out a handkerchief to wipe her tears. Yi Chen asked her a few more questions, but the little girl could not remember anything at all. She kept crying. Fellow Yi, looks like Earth is extraordinary. The Patriarch of Hell took a deep look at him. Before this, he had thought that Earth was just a desolate, lesser kiliocosm. Now that he had experienced so much, Earth had become much more mysterious in his heart. Yi Chen shook his head and said nothing. He continued walking forward with everyone. He wanted to see if there were any tombstones left behind by Earth's powerhouses. Regardless of their nationality or skin color, these people had used heroic deeds to protect everything when Earth was in danger. They were heroes, and heroes should not have their souls flown away. Heroes should have returned to their homeland and enjoyed the sacrifices and reverence of their descendants. The further they went, the heavier everyone's mood became. Even Wu Lan and Su Yuhan's eyes were red from crying. There were too many wreckage, too many tombstones. The people who stood alone in this desolate and silent land were like lonely ghosts. When Yi Chen looked at the blue planet from afar, He realized that the blue planet was filled with a vast aura. If one looked at it for a long time, it would actually make one shudder. Is it an illusion? Yi Chen's eyes flashed imperceptibly. He could not help but secretly send a voice transmission to the Patriarch of Hell, telling him what he had discovered. The Patriarch of Hell also looked at Earth from afar. Then he sucked in a breath of cold air and sent a voice transmission. There's a great terror on Earth. It's like a terrifying beast that has fallen into an endless sleep. As expected, Yi Chen was shocked as he continued walking forward. Yi Wushuang suddenly stopped in his tracks and lowered his head to look at a red stone tablet under his feet. The stone tablet was extremely ancient, and there was a rotten aura coming from it. There was a sword mark that was difficult to see with the naked eye on it. Sword mark! Yi Chen and the Patriarch of Hell could not help but stretch out their hands to touch the surface of the tablet when they saw that. They sensed it with their hearts. They immediately felt like they had fallen into a monstrous sword river. Ancient and endless sword intent stabbed at them. Ancient sword mark! Shi Qianhan took a few steps back and looked at the stone tablet in fear. His face turned pale as he said, "This is an ancient sword mark. It's too ancient. It hasn't been destroyed even after 10,000 years." The others felt their scalps go numb. What kind of sword mark could remain intact for 10,000 years? Moreover, the sword intent within was endless, like an inextinguishable tinder. Shi Qianhan muttered to himself. Could it be that 10,000 years ago, someone from Earth's ancestors fought against the foreign enemies here? And this sword mark was left behind by an ancient sword cultivator. Patriarch Yellow Spring took a deep breath and said, "Why hasn't anyone discovered this thing before?" "Because Mars has changed," Yi Chen speculated boldly. "The thing that was buried on Mars has been covered by the dust of history. Now that it's appeared again, Mars was known as the Mars star in ancient times, and the word Mars represents calamity and war. All the dynasties in China have been extremely superstitious about the Mars guard heart phenomenon." End of this chapter. Chapter 1379. Earth, you have too many secrets. At this point, he mumbled to himself. At this moment, he could not help but wonder if Chang'e's flight to the moon, Houyi's shooting of the sun, and the various myths in China's history really existed. Everyone continued forward because in that direction there was a faint, majestic aura as well as a boundless constellation shining down on them. Half an hour later, the crowd stopped and stared blankly ahead. There was an incomparably majestic and ancient altar in front of them. The altar was extremely huge. From afar, it looked like a huge city that had been specially built on Mars. The altar was engraved with extremely ancient patterns and words. They looked like birds, bugs, and fish, but they contained a profound and bitter aura. At that moment, everyone could not help but hear strange sounds. The sounds were extremely spacious and ancient, as if they had transcended time and space. This is the sound of the ancient ancestors sacrificing to heaven and earth. Shi Qianhan's heart skipped a beat as he muttered, "I've read in an ancient book that the ancient ancestors revered nature and God. Therefore, they often held sacrificial ceremonies and recited the sacrificial scriptures." "That's right." Yi Chen nodded and said, "The society before the Zhou dynasty was centered around God. They paid attention to the authority of the monarch. For example, the emperors of the Shang dynasty boasted that they were the descendants of God." At this point, he could not help but pause for a moment before continuing. This is also the reason why the investiture of the gods wanted to recruit all kinds of gods. It wanted to separate the humans and the gods to govern each other with the end of the Shang dynasty. With that, he took the lead and walked forward. The closer they got to the altar, the stronger the sacrificial voice in everyone's minds became. Fortunately, it was not aggressive, as if it was just a reenactment of an ancient memory. After crossing the desolate stone steps, everyone's gazes landed on the altar in the distance. It was unknown what material the altar was made of, but it was as smooth as a calm lake. At that moment, there were many sacrificial offerings placed on it. There was an interstellar beast that looked like a Kuei cow, spirit wine that reeked of alcohol and even human heads. The eyes of the human heads were wide open, as if they had died with grievances. Their facial features were different from those of humans on Earth. Why are there offerings here? Everyone stopped in their tracks and looked at the offerings that filled the hall. Vigilance surged in their eyes. Su Yuhan could not bear to look at it, and it's using human heads as a sacrifice. Yi Chen looked at the heads and said with a frown, "These people should be from the outer realm. Moreover, they seem to have died not long ago. However, who killed them and placed their heads here as an offering? Could it be a victory?" A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. In the firmament purple world, after He Ing and Yi Wushuang worked together to destroy the immortal palace, Ing left. Before he left, he did not say a word to Yi Chen. He was extremely reclusive. At this moment, the altar that resembled the surface of the lake was filled with strange phenomena. It was dazzling and resplendent. There were many millstone-sized stars floating above the altar. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 100 of them. These celestial bodies were extremely lifelike, with different colors. Although their arrangement was messy, they all had their own unique orbits. Although these celestial bodies were small, every one of them faintly emitted a terrifying aura. They were like radioactive elements that constantly overflowed into the outside world. At that moment, Yi Chen's expression finally changed in shock. Is this the universe's star chart? Looks like it is indeed the universe's star chart. The Patriarch of Hell nodded heavily as his gaze wandered around the many celestial bodies. However, it doesn't seem to be complete. There are only 108 celestial bodies. At this point, he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed. No, fellow Yi, these are the strongest 108 celestial bodies in the universe. The top 100 stars in the universe. Lightning flashed in Yi Chen's eyes immediately, piercing through the sky. These are the top 100 stars in the universe. I didn't expect the ancient ancestors of Earth to have begun to understand the world of stars 10,000 years ago. Bleck. At this moment, many soul formation powerhouses behind him spat a mouthful of blood. Their complexions were extremely dispirited, and they felt an incomparable pain in their hearts. Don't try to investigate the secrets in each celestial body, Yi Chen shouted immediately. Each of these celestial bodies is stronger than Earth. Their laws are even more shocking. If you guys investigate rashly, you'll easily alarm the heaven illuminators in these celestial bodies. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone could not help but retract their divine consciousness hurriedly. They were as fearful as tigers, and they looked at the celestial bodies again with shock in their eyes. Initially, they thought that they were soul formation powerhouses after all, and they could roam the starry sky. Never did they expect to be injured by a star chart. While Hall Master North Yun was shocked, he could not help but look at Yi Chen and say, "Fellow Yi, what are the top 100 stars in the universe? What are the heaven illuminators? I'll explain it to you guys." Before Yi Chen could speak, the Patriarch of Hell spoke first. There are many celestial worlds similar to Earth in the universe. The 100th celestial body on this star chart is the most powerful existence in the universe. How many stars are there in the universe? Someone asked. Who knows? The Patriarch of Hell chuckled. However, according to my guess, there are at least 100,000 of them. Dead silence. The scene suddenly fell into endless silence. Shi Qianhan, Su Yuhan, and the rest fell silent. The Patriarch of Green Spirit and the other soul formation powerhouses seemed to have been petrified, and their hearts were in turmoil. It was fine if there were hundreds of thousands of stars, but the 100th celestial body on the star chart was the most powerful among the hundreds of thousands of stars. Su Yuhan heaved a sigh of relief and could not help but ask, "How are these stars ranked?" "The power of powerhouses," Yi Chen explained patiently. "In every star, countless almighties will break through to a higher level over the past tens of millions of years. These people also carry the luck of the star they are on. Their auras will reflect towards the stars outside their mother planet, and the ranking will be determined according to the length of the reflection range. He was afraid that Su Yuhan and the rest did not understand, so he gave an example. For example, countless companies are producing light bulbs, but the brightness and power consumption of each company's light bulbs are different. Some light bulbs not only save energy, but they can also illuminate further in the same dark environment. After hearing his analogy, everyone finally understood. Fellow Yi, that's a good analogy. The patriarch of hell smiled and said, in the mortal cloud world where I'm from, there are many small planets. There are hundreds of millions of living beings on each planet, and they are divided into level 1 to level 9 cultivation planets. Among them, the highest cultivation base on level 1 cultivation planets is foundation building, while level 2 cultivation planets are golden core, and so on. He said slowly, when a cultivator on a level 1 cultivation planet steps into golden core, the planet he is on will advance to a level 2 cultivation planet. Similarly, if a cultivator on a level 2 cultivation planet steps into nascent soul, the planet he is on will advance to a level 3 cultivation planet. End of this chapter. Chapter 1380. I see. Everyone came to a realization. Yi Qin glanced at everyone and said, the higher the ranking of each star in the heavens, the more luck it will enjoy. It will then benefit the billions of living beings in the world of stars. He spoke confidently. The powerhouses who illuminate the heavens in every star will also receive abundant benefits. Firstly, they will receive the blessing of the mother planet. Secondly, they will enjoy billions of incense offerings. Most importantly, they will be worshipped by countless worlds in the heavens. The benefits are too great, the patriarch of hell chuckled and said. All heavens will be worshipped and all realms will worship. They will enjoy billions of incense offerings and endless offerings. Many people's eyes turned red when they heard that. To put it bluntly, what Yi Qin meant was that being awesome in the countryside was not as awesome as being awesome in the city. Being awesome in the city was not as awesome as being awesome in the world. Being awesome on Earth was not as awesome as being awesome in the universe. The only thing that shocked me was that the ancient ancestors of Earth actually knew about the secrets of the top 100 stars in the heavens 10,000 years ago. Yi Qin stared blankly at the altar before him and mumbled. Doesn't this mean that Earth once had a glorious era? It was so glorious that it reflected the universe. In other words, Earth used to have a heaven illuminator? Shi Qianhan was so excited that he could not control himself. I wonder what Earth's ranking is in the heavens now. Haha, Yi Qin smiled. Then he extended his hand and pointed at the star chart in front of him. Buzz! The starry sky map suddenly trembled violently, and then endless ripples of starlight surged out, revealing a blue planet. A string of ancient words that looked like birds, beasts, insects, and fishes appeared in the ripples. Celestial burial planet, 135,862, 130,000. Everyone felt like their parents had died when they saw the string of numbers. They felt like their enthusiasm had been completely extinguished by a bucket of cold water. The patriarch of hell said that there were more than 100,000 stars in the heavens. If Earth was ranked 130,000, wouldn't it be at the bottom of the heavens? No wonder they could not stop the foreign enemies. As if sensing everyone's disappointment, Yi Qin could not help but comfort them. This is just Earth's current ranking. Someone forced a smile and said, could it be that Earth's ranking was higher in ancient times? Even so, it shouldn't be much higher, right? At that moment, Su Yuhan suddenly said, Yi Qin, there's a tablet there. Everyone couldn't help but look in the direction of the voice. They saw a broken stone tablet at the corner of the altar. It was only half of the tablet, and it was covered in dust. If they didn't look closely, they wouldn't be able to recognize it. Yi Qin walked over and wiped the dust off the broken tablet. He saw a string of ancient words faintly on the tablet. Someone tried to decipher it. Celestial burial planet, 6th place. Before he could finish speaking, he stopped abruptly. His eyes widened and he stood there motionlessly, his entire body trembling. This is Earth's former ranking among the heavens. 6th place? Earth was ranked 6th. My God, unbelievable, simply unbelievable. At that moment, everyone was shocked. They could not believe their eyes. Even Yi Qin and the Patriarch of Hell were exceptions. 6th place. Patriarch Yellow Springs Adams applebobbed as he said, "A mere kiliocosm is ranked 6th among the hundreds of thousands of planets in the universe. This is unbelievable. What kind of era was the ancient times exactly?" Yi Qin took a deep breath in as waves surged in his heart. What kind of existence appeared in the ancient times to be able to illuminate the heavens to such an extent? But why was the ancient era ended? Also, why did these ancestors of Earth who once illuminated the heavens, swept through the 10 worlds, and suppressed the 10 worlds disappear? Celestial burial planet, celestial burial planet. Did immortals really die there? At that moment, countless thoughts flashed through Yi Chen's mind. There were also too many questions. He was not the only one. The rest fell silent as well. The altar before them had told them too much. The pride and glory of the past, the humiliation and loneliness of today Earth, which was once ranked 6th among the 10,000 worlds, had now been invaded by many great enemies of the stars that they had once suppressed. If this was not humiliation, what was it? Everyone, let's go. Yi Chen took one last deep look at the huge altar before him. Subsequently, he suppressed the doubts in his heart and left with a flick of his sleeve. Although Earth was far from Mars, it looked like it was within reach from Mars. Therefore, there was no need for the star-fixing compass. Roar! Xiao He revealed its true form. Yi Chen held Su Yuhan's hand and took a step forward. They landed on Xiao He's back immediately. The rest hurried up. After everyone stabilized themselves, the little black dragon's body shook and it charged towards Earth at an extremely fast speed. Mars was over 40 million kilometers away from Earth. With Xiao He's beginner stage god transformation stage cultivation base, it would take half a day at most to arrive. Yi Hai, who was behind him, suddenly coughed. He looked at Yi Chen and said, "Xiao Qin, I have to give you an order before we go home." Before Yi Chen could speak, he said, "I don't care what urgent matters you have when we get back. Marry Yuhan first." Your father is right. Wu Lan snapped back to her senses. She glanced at Su Yuhan as if her heart ached. Yuhan has sacrificed too much for you. She even gave birth to 2 children for you. You must give her a status. The Patriarch of Hell and the rest could not help but laugh when they heard that. That's great. We'll be waiting to drink the wedding wine. Su Yuhan's pretty face blushed. She could not help but turn her head to look at Yi Chen. Her eyes were filled with sweetness and anticipation. "Dad, Mom, I got it." Yi Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. "I know what to do even if you guys don't say anything. Don't worry. I'll marry Yuhan immediately when I get back." Yi Hai and Wu Lan looked satisfied when they heard that. Su Yuhan's grip on Yi Chen's hand tightened. No woman would not look forward to getting married. She had worn a wedding dress twice in her life, but she did not wear it for Yi Chen. That was something she could not let go of. Now that she was going to wear it for Yi Chen, how could she not be happy? Even though she knew that she only had half a year to live, she still felt content. Half a day passed very quickly. Whoosh! Earth became clearer and clearer in everyone's eyes. Xiao He flashed with a black glow and passed through the atmosphere directly, entering Earth completely. At that moment, Yi Chen ordered, "Xiao He, hide your aura and hide yourself. Don't alert anyone." The reason why Yi Chen gave that order was that he was worried that they would be treated as enemies from the outer world if they descended on Earth in such a high-profile manner. It would definitely cause unnecessary panic and trouble. He only wanted to accompany Su Yuhan quietly. At the same time, he wanted to see what Earth had become while he was away.